Hey, what's happening, everyone? It's your boy, Rob Noor, Normal America Show. Great to have you here. Now, I forgot I told everyone I wouldn't be streaming tonight, but I lied, I guess. I guess it's not a lie if I forgot. I don't recall. That's what everyone says when they get interviewed. You'd say I don't recall when you're being interviewed by Congress or the FBI, and you only go to jail if you're a Trump supporter. Then you get the hook then. Mike Flynn, don't recall. Maybe I said that. Yep, go to jail. So I don't recall that I was supposed to stream this evening, but I am with my friend Aftershock and a friend of his, Ginge. I believe that's how you say it. Ginge, short for Ginger. So I'll be talking to those two this evening till about the 11 o'clock hour, and then I'll be doing some late night cleaning. We have a spare bedroom. I have some friends that are staying with me tomorrow evening, and the spare bedroom is currently a ground zero for my son Hank's toys. So they need to kind of be packed up. We got to go through some of them and see which ones we're going to keep because you know how it is. What's up, Mind Izzy? Sorry I had to cancel on you yesterday. But we have to go through and see which toys we're going to keep, which toys we're going to donate to Goodwill. So because with Christmas coming, I'm realizing as a first-time parent, you got to make room because he'll get a lot of toys for Christmas. And so it's like, got to do something. So that's what I'll be doing. Yeah, the Mind of Z and I were supposed to have an interview yesterday, and I screwed that up. I totally forgot about it. And when my wife was setting up family plans, and yesterday, as soon as I finished my interview with Lecture Fan, we went to her mother's house. And every year around Christmas time, we make cookies all day. So we were there making cookies until the wee hours of the night. I think around, I'm sorry, Mind of Z. I think around 10:30 or something, I called into the Crucible and talked to Sonsoul for like 10, 15 minutes. And that was through my phone, and I couldn't stream it. So that was all I was able to do last night. Hop Report says, yo, how can I discuss with you on stream? Just set up a time, man. This time of year is a little tough because sometimes family life and work life. You have to understand when you do healthcare, everybody wants to call off for the holidays. Everyone. So like next week, I'm working an extra 20 hours. So that's tough. And then when I get off, it seems like I got a family event more often than not. So it'll be difficult. Once the holidays end, I'll be back to streaming consistently 5 days a week. And I take calls pretty much anytime. So yeah, send me a message on Discord or on Twitter, a direct message. My DMs are open on Twitter. And I'll reach out to you if I see it and we set up a time. Or if there's just some night that I don't have a guest or something, and you say, hey, I want to talk to you about X, maybe I'll have you call in on Whereby or Discord or Google Voice. But I don't mind. I take calls a lot. So what's up, Vita? How you doing, my friend? So yeah, Aftershock, and then we'll be on in about 13 minutes. Some big stories breaking. Did you guys buy Trump's new NFT? My Discord, someone should be able to give you a link there. I think it's listed here. Check it out. Trump's NFT. I mean, whatever. Big announcement. Come on. Like, I think that was his big announcement. Hopefully he's smart enough to realize how bad that looks. And he'll be like, just kidding. But I do think that's what his big announcement was. I don't really have a problem with people selling merchandise and stuff. I don't care. But it's like, dude, you're running for president. Come on, man. It's not amateur hour. It just seems silly to me. Whatever. Other big news. This one's even bigger. You ready for this? Aaron Rupar and a bunch of left-wing, quote-unquote, journalists / propagandists. What's up, Sparky? They're getting, as we speak, they're getting banned off Twitter, allegedly for reporting on Elon's private jet. So the story goes something like this. Elon decided that he considers it doxing to report on people's jet flights. And so you will be banned if you do that. And then after making that statement, his youngest daughter, I believe, who's 11, some masked person blocked the car that his daughter was in, mistakenly thinking Elon was in it. So he's a little pissed personally because he feels people are coming from him and his family. Spoiler alert, they are. Sorry, Elon. It sucks. That's what the left is. They use violence and intimidate. They are what they accuse you of. They, just like with Kavanaugh, they might not have wanted Kavanaugh to be hurt, but they wanted Kavanaugh to be fearful. And that's why they were perfectly okay, even after an assassination attempt with people outside his home. And that's why we never got to the bottom of that Supreme Court leak, huh? So anyways, then the story is, I thought Elon was pro-free speech. So you hear that this is a crazy story. You hear Aaron Rupar, a bunch of these left-wing propagandist journalists are getting censored. So I just thought I'd give my take on it. That's a shame. Anyways, moving on to the next story. Says, do you think it's possible that Trump is playing into the down and out narrative so he peaks? It's possible, but you see, I never bought into this 4D chess narrative of Trump. I never did. I think Trump's a smarter guy than me. We all have different types of intelligence. I think Trump's ability to resonate with large swaths of people is second to none. Sometimes that resonation comes off negatively, but there's no doubt that he inspired many people that were apathetic towards politics. People in my family never cared about politics till Trump ran. I can't do that. So don't get it twisted that when I say I don't think Trump's playing 4D chess, that I'm saying that I'm somehow smarter or more talented than him. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think that much of what Trump ran off of was gut feeling. And a lot of times his gut feeling would be right. Sometimes it would be wrong. But this idea that he was playing 4D chess, I never bought into. And I think he's lost a step. I'll be quite frank with you. I think he's worried. I think he knows he's going to get indicted. I think he knows. And I think he sees that, his hope against that was, but I'm still the big man in the Republican Party, and I still get all, millions upon millions of people that'll go to bat for me. And I think a lot of people are like, I don't know. DeSantis has a lot of the positives without as many as the negatives. And so I think Trump is sort of desperate. That's my feeling. That's what I feel. And I think because of that, and he never was the super genius 4D chess that everyone claimed, I think you're starting to see a lot of dumb moves. That's what I think. I think this, could it be that they had this, whiteboarded out, we'll announce the NFT and then everyone will be like, what a boneheaded move. And then, yeah, I suppose. But if that was them planning it out, that's stupid too. So, what are you going to do? Yeah, I hear you, Vita. We'll join Aftershock here in a minute. Just a brief update. The last you saw me, I was on Lecture Fan Show. Before that, I did 6 hours with Sitch and Adam. I went back and I watched. I think I mentioned this the other day, but I went back and I watched. I have no idea why they were so pissy at the end of that stream. I thought that I went out of my way to be calm and collected. I thought that Adam particularly was intentionally being a dick to me the entire time. Cutting me off, belittling me constantly. And I thought that I meant it with just the slightest touch of just like giving it back to him a little. But, basically at the end, they just keep saying, well, I think the way I think about the FBI because of my bias. And I merely said, well, they also have a bias. And they flew off the handle about that. And, I'm not personally offended. I don't care. I was just more shocked that that was sort of the reaction. I would still go on their show again. I still wish them well. No hard feelings on my part. I just hope that they're not upset about it because I think that I had every right to be even more aggressive than when I was, seeing as the treatment that I was getting. So, and I think that a lot of people in their audience saw it as well. And despite their downplaying, I think that many people realize that objectively I sounded really, really good in that conversation about FBI corruption. And despite sort of, reasonable pushback from Sitch and sometimes Adam, but a lot of snark from Adam. I think that it was evident that I'm well researched and I know what I'm talking about. Let me play you a little clip, just to illustrate the point. Ruminate was, you remember Ruminate? He was some guy debated once. He didn't do so well. Ruminate tweeted out that, he said maybe Trump will have a fleshlight. And Ruminate tagged me and some other people and said, you going to buy it, Rob? And I was basically like, I don't have to buy it. I already own you. After that debate we had. And the good friend of the show, Syrians, posted the clip of Ruminate. In case you're wondering how Ruminate, who was a big talker, he was a big talker on Twitter, he was going to give me the business on vaccine mandates. Let's see how that went in his own words as he talked to Destiny about me, shall we? Let's see what Ruminate said.
I'm trying to take very careful notes here because I had a really, really, really bad interaction with, robnoerr.
Yeah, he's really aggressive, yeah.
Well, it was, yeah, he was super aggressive, but also, like, I was shocked at how ill-prepared I was. I thought it was going to be, like, kind of an organic conversation like I've been having with, like, you.
Oh, yeah. You have to be really prepared when you're talking to him. He'll have all of his, like, facts and figures out.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, like, he just steamrolled me. It was brutal. And I mean, I was like, yeah, number one, completely underestimated you and the tone and everything else, and I was just not ill prepared for it. It's humiliating. I'm trying to take very...
Thanks, Ruminate. And here's what I've always said, right? Like, I understand people have biases, and I've talked. Hey, what's up, Jordan Fargo? Thanks for the sub, man. I really appreciate it. I understand people have biases, and those biases will go in all sorts of directions. And some of us allow our bias to affect us more than others, but you'll always have your bias that affects you. But the people that you see, if you look me up on Reddit or you see these people on Twitter and stuff that are like, Rob's a smooth brain, he's stupid. I'm not. I'm actually really good at debating, and they know it. They do. And if they don't know it, then they're ignorant and they're a really bad judge of people engaged in argument. So Destiny knows it. That's why he says, you got to be careful. He's going to have his... What a shady, immoral person I am, having my facts in front of me. And the other thing to understand is preparation. You want to know what my preparation is for 99% of the streams I do? Okay, wife, see you in 2 hours. That's it. That's my preparation. I work 80 hours a week. I have a family. When I stream is when I stream. That's about it. So imagine if I had the time to be a full-time streamer and 8 hours a day to put into things and know that I had a debate coming up and, the research that I could put in. So, thanks, Serene. I appreciate it. Vita, real quick, I do have to join Aftershock here, but real quick, I did post, and my post was I'll bring it up here maybe while talking to Aftershock, or maybe, I don't know where our conversation will go. Aftershock, if you could hear me, give me a second. It's, there we go. My computer's, it doesn't want to open the browser here. What's going on? Come on, browser. Oh, because it's doing some update. But yeah, my comment, I can still see it, but mysteriously, no one else can now. Like I said, I'll bring it up later. It's a little bit frustrating, but all the comment said was, hey, no hard feelings. I thought the tone was pretty mild. Love to come back on again. And I noticed that it had a bunch of upvotes, and then all of a sudden I had people reaching out to me saying, we can't see your comment on Sitch and Adam's video. I don't think that Sitch and Adam did anything, but it's more likely that some of my comments get shadow banned on YouTube, would be my guess. Let's see if we can get Aftershock. You're going to lose me visually here for a minute. His friend's name is Ginge. At least his nickname. Maybe it is his real name. I live with that. If my name was Ginge, I could live with it. My nickname growing up was Bugs, because apparently I had bug eyes. All right. Oh boy. There we go. There we are. So, oh, it's Pisco. What's up? Sitch was. It'd be tough. I would say Sitch is very similar in caliber to Pisco and sort of debating these issues, where I think it's sort of a huge blind spot at corruption, but it's someone you could have a conversation with, you know? It's not as if, yeah, it's not just total word salad that's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Adam was a little more, I think he was just trying to provoke a reaction. I don't know. There he is. What's up? I can't hear you. If you could hear me, Aftershock, I can't hear you. No problem. Yeah, no hurry. I do have to end around 11 because, as I've said, so I got. Let's see. I gotta. I got friends coming over tomorrow, and they're going to use our spare room, and our spare room is currently Hank's toy room. So I got to get it cleaned up and decide which toys we're going to save for him and which toys we're taking to Goodwill to donate here before Christmas. So, yeah, I don't. Again, I didn't know what to. I've seen Sitch and Adams show maybe 6 or 7 times, but 10 minutes at a time, not their whole show. So it was. What's up, man?
Yo, what's up, Rob? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Your boy Aftershock can't figure out his setup here, so we'll wait for him. I'm just kidding. He's fine.
No, he's all good. We were just chatting in Discord here.
We could have used Discord. I don't care. The people I streamed with the other night said Whereby was giving him a problem, so I don't know.
Yo,
can you hear me now?
There he is.
What's up, buddy?
Okay, give me 1 sec here. Let me. Okay, there we go. Can you guys talk for me real quick?
Talking. There I am.
How dirty do you want it, Marty? Like,
yeah,
are we doing like 10 cents an hour here?
More specific.
Well, we'll save that for the after dark, after 10 p.m. here.
Yeah, true.
We'll get into the
we'll
adult
go back when we go to
theme.
comfy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
What's up,
Whenever
Rob?
you're
How you doing, man?
So was just discussing my Adam and Sitch interview there with people, but I'm doing good.
Oh, God. Nice. All right, cool. So I was thinking, I had a good bunch of stuff that, I wanted to talk about. I'll let you steer it or I can steer it, whichever way it goes. But,
you go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I wanted to talk about, culture war, Trump versus DeSantis, the left, Ginge, about like how he, came to his beliefs, how I came to my beliefs, because ironically enough, and I don't know if you remember this, Ginge, but remember when we were gaming, this had to be maybe 7 years ago. I was and Ginge knows this. I was a hardcore lefty. I was full, I guarantee you I probably would have been out in the streets by now if I actually didn't meet Ginge. I'm not going to lie, because me and Ginge were really close friends. We were always gaming together. We knew each other personally. It was great. And the conversation came up of Trump. And he mentioned that, it was during Trump's, kind of, Muslim ban arc kind of thing. And securing the country and everything. And Ginge had said that he would rather, I don't know if you remember this, Ginge, but you said you would rather Trump be in office right now than Bernie. And I was like, what? I was like, what, Ginge? What the fuck? And you were just like, yeah. And then, but I feel like if the conversation would have gone with anybody else, I would have probably still stayed where I was. But because I knew who Ginge was, and he's a great guy, he's doing a bunch of stuff with comic books and everything like that I'm sure he can get into and everything. But honestly, Ginge was my door to becoming conservative. He really was. And if it wasn't for him, I believe that I probably would be like a blue-haired fucking they them right now. I guarantee you it.
That's awesome.
That's basically my
That's also, I mean, my experience was a little of the inverse of that. Now, certainly, I grew up, everyone was conservative where I was from. It's rural Pennsylvania. But I wasn't really political. You know, I was young. And then by the time I was like, you know, senior in high school, 9/11 happened my senior year. And it was easy to get swept up in that wave. Even left-leaning people back then in 2002, it was like, oh, those bastards, we got to get them. And I don't regret that. Like, that's a normal reaction. But for me, what it was joining the debate team in college and then sort of being thrust into politics. And I shared with a lot of left-wingers my distrust of the intelligence agencies and things like that. But more than that, it was my hatred of how they viewed me and the people I came from. And it was this arrogance, right? I could hear, in fact, it's not even the hatred. I'm misspeaking. What it was the pity, right? When I saw it in their eyes, when they were like, you're pretty good, but you could, if you just try harder, you could be one of us. And I, with all of my fiber, was like, fuck you. How dare you look down on me? How dare you look down on the place I come from and the people I come from? I know people that didn't graduate high school that I would say are 10 times smarter than many of these people I was in debate with, because they might not know shit about, you know, the Magna Carta or, you know, Michel Foucault or postmodernism. But when your engine breaks down, guess where you're going, big man? And so for me, it was maybe the contrarian in me that everyone around me was left wing. So I was like, nah, fuck that. You know, but
yeah, actually, I'd say a bit of the same for me, except more the inverse of you, Rob. I'm from Florida and Bay County, Florida, a pretty red state. My Fox News was in the house, you know, playing all the time. I was in fourth grade when 9/11 happened. And I'd say I'm actually pretty close with Aftershock here in terms of, like, if I was 19 today, I would probably most definitely be, you know, one of these lunatics on the street, because at that time I was like, a few years up until then, my aunt Katie, who's now like kind of deep into the atheist society type stuff, and she started campaigning for Obama in my county in like his first run in like 2008. And yeah, I must have been, I don't know, 12 around then, maybe a little older, but I was just right at the right age where she, you know, and I don't blame her. I love her. It's like, it's all good. But she kind of like activated me as like a youngster, you know, just because I grew up in a house where, again, I didn't really like religion myself. You know, I was at that age where like Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and all that was hitting YouTube in its prime. So, you know, I got kind of sucked right into that. And sort of fast forward, I forget his name exactly, but I think it was Random Black Guy. Is that a YouTuber? He's a
sounds good,
dude.
Yeah,
right. No, I came across this YouTuber, and I'll be honest, I was taking a dump, and he was like talking about how a lot of Bernie supporters are going to wake up one day and find out that they're Trump supporters, and he just started going over the list, and it was like, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, son of a bitch, I think he's right. And I was like, I just started looking at it more seriously. And for me, yeah, because I was a Bernie supporter going into the 2016 election. I just was really into the message: free college, free healthcare, fuck the police, you know, all that stuff. That was, am I allowed to cuss on this show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Do it, bitch.
Okay, thank you, buddy. But no, I'll tell you what turned me off of Bernie, and I think this probably was a lot the same for a lot of people. Is at that time I really believed in the message, and the fact that at the DNC he just basically went down there and kissed the ring and didn't even do it's the giving up by the numbers. Like, okay, I wasn't gonna have the numbers, it just wasn't there. It's like, all right, fine. But the fact that he didn't even bother to go out and preach his message, he just didn't do a speech at all. To me, that actually really made me angry, and I was done right there. I was like, you're full of shit and you're just playing ball, and that's exactly what I thought you were against, is everything that you were preaching against. But like, this is, you know, that was it for me. And yeah, then Trump's message, to me, it's kind of like similar to Bernie. It's like nega Bernie in a way, you know what I mean? There's the populist stuff, but there's more like, more about being basically an independent type person in a way. At least the early MAGA version, and also the bringing everything back to America. I really bought into that message as well too. But we can sort of get into my thoughts on Trump today as we progress. But yeah, that's about it for me. I kind of turned at about mid 2016, 17, something like that. That dump was huge for me. And
that's where I do my best thinking too. No, I think that it's one of the things that I haven't spent a lot of time on my show lately about this, but when I ran for Congress in 2019, the big thing then was AOC just got elected in 2018. So I'm in this most conservative district in Pennsylvania, and you're talking to all these voters, and they're like, AOC, what an airhead. These moron young people that voted for her. And I was like, don't say that. And they're like, why? I'm like, would you vote for someone if they called you a moron airhead? Isn't that why you're pissed about Hillary? She said you were a deplorable. Instead, you should realize that these people that voted for someone like AOC, they're fed up with the system. They have different conclusions than you, but someday they'll be with you. They will when they grow up. And so you should, instead of demeaning them, you should say, we think you're making an uneducated choice. We think that the issues that you're prioritizing are wrong, but you're absolutely right to be upset with the system. We just think that someday you'll realize the message we have is better. And so I think you're absolutely right. Your experience probably parallels a lot of people around your age group where, look at the two central figures that I would say that were both septuagenarians that had this crazy youth movement. You had Bernie Sanders and then you had Ron Paul. Ron Paul was my guy. Ron Paul never sold out. Right? He didn't get as far as Bernie, as far as the national spotlight, but he, to this day, is still the small government. What are these Republicans doing with these spending bills? With the lockdowns, with all of that stuff. And I think that helped the right more than people realize, that people like you became disenfranchised. And you could just 2 days ago, Bernie stood down on his amendment to kind of force the stop of the funding of the war in Yemen. He stood down and was like, we have agreed to promise to have talks. It's like, great job, Bernie. You did it. Yeah. What are you getting, a fourth lake house this time? And the squad's like this. They all do the same shit. They talk a big game, then they get there and they do nothing. And you could sort of say that about Trump somewhat. But yeah, for me, the populist figure of Ron Paul, and to a lesser degree his son, they've stuck it through, and they haven't achieved the strength that the squad or the progressives have. But I can still hold my head up high,
So two things. One, both of your guys' impression of Bernie fucking sucks ass. But second is...
I do a good Cookie Monster.
The second, I honestly, I'll be completely honest. I was a lot dumber than you guys. I'll be completely honest. The way I came around was from a different angle. So basically all my information was filtered through Facebook. That's all I ever saw. Everything, all the cop videos that you see, all the racist, white, hillbillies, saying the N-word everywhere and stuff like that. That is all that I saw. And I kid you not, this was my first wait a minute, what the fuck is going on moment, where I saw two posts. I guarantee I literally see it on Facebook. It's like when it tells you oh, 5 years ago you posted this, right? I still have it. It still comes up where I saw two posts back to back, right? It was I forget which media outlet it was, right? But they were back to back. One said it was Hillary giving a speech, and it was Hillary talks about healthcare, women's rights, racism, systemic all this stuff she was talking about. And then on the bottom was Trump, and it was just Trump gives a speech, and I was like, what? I was like, you're not even going to elaborate on what he's talking about a little bit? And then that's when I started questioning things. I was like, okay, maybe I should question this cop video where he's kind of taking this guy down, and then that's when I started kind of, waking up basically, and from there, I think that's when Ginge, you and I started going back and forth, and that first argument that we had, I was going off. I don't know if I was the typical fucking lefty, dude, we can't blame Muslims and we gotta and stuff like that. And you were like, Martin, calm down, dude, chill. Let's just talk about this. and I started coming around. And then I looked at my allies that were supposed to be the ones sticking up for me, and I realized how much more they fucking hated my guts when I was not a good little Hispanic pushing the message that I should be pushing. I just saw how gross every single person was, and I in my college, everybody was completely left, everybody, and it was just this whole battleground of back and forth of friends just like kind of not talking to me anymore and unfriending me. And I can say this, like, I have never ever blocked somebody like, you know, a close friend and stuff for over political views, but it seems like that's the norm now. The people that I thought were going to be in my life forever now don't even think twice about talking to me anymore. And it kind of seems like I've kind of came to a realization that, Rob, I know you talk about this a lot, where, like, you know, we may get pissed, we may get down and stuff like that, talking about all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's your personal life that matters the most, your wife, your kids, you know what I mean? Like, and everything. But for me, I think I've kind of taken a different angle where I've kind of accepted the fact that I need to sacrifice some of my personal happiness for the future of the country. If these people want to leave because of what I believe, that's fine. That's fine. That's your choice. That is not on me.
Right. That's not sacrificing your personal happiness, though. Like, I go out of my way with such as like good friends or family members that are really pissy to try to joke it off. You know, this Thanksgiving, it wasn't even people that disagree with me politically. It's just people that didn't want to talk politics at Thanksgiving. So one member of my family's like, Rob, did you see this shit Biden's doing? And instantly groans from another member. And this is what I said, because he's comparing Biden to Trump. And I said, did you ever see, there's this movie, it's called My Fellow Americans, and it stars James Garner and Jack Lemmon. And this is basically the plot of the movie, that I think Jack Lemmon's the Democrat and James Garner's the Republican, and they have a presidential election at the beginning of the movie, and Lemmon wins, or Garner wins, and then they have another election and Jack Lemmon wins, right? But his vice president's Dan Aykroyd, and Aykroyd basically stages a coup and tries to kill Jack Lemmon, and so the only person he could call is James Garner, and now the two presidents are bumbling around the country, like, you know, trying to hail taxis and get to some, and it's a comedy, right? It's just like, they're traveling. I was like, I feel like they need to do that with Trump and Biden. Like, let's just do a series where it's just like, Trump and Biden go to the county fair, and Biden sniffing hair, and Trump's, you know, doing his shit, trying to sell NFT cards or something. But that was my way of being like, I'm not being inauthentic. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, you know, I hate Republicans too, or, you know, say things I don't believe for the sake of facilitating the peace. But I'll try to brush it off, you know. But yeah, there are certain people, you know, I'll just say this about it. The irony is, of the people that do that, if you happen to be on the left right now because you're smart and you're listening to someone like me to figure out what you should do, let me give you a piece of advice. When you act like that, you drive people away from you. You really do. And that's, if they could just not be as insane, they have so much institutional power that they would be dominating. But the problem is, even moderate lefties like, you know, Brett and Eric Weinstein or Matt Taibbi or Barry Weiss or Dave Rubin or Joe Rogan, all of them come to the same conclusion. It's like, it's never enough for these people. It's, you have to toe the party line 100% of the time. If you toe it 95% and then you're like, well, wait a minute, this, you know, gender surgery for 8-year-olds, that's a bridge too far for me. They'll throw your ass under the bus like that. And it's not just, well, we don't want to talk to you anymore. It's, we want to ruin you. We want to end your career. And I think that what they don't realize is that has the exact inverse effect. It might give them some short-term dopamine or some short-term strategic benefits, but it's creating people long stream that absolutely understand who these people are. They would throw you, and, you know, Jesse Kelly talks about this all the time. All your family members that wouldn't leave you come to Thanksgiving dinner unless you had a mask on, those are the people that will call the Gestapo on you in the future. They will. And so if you have to cut those people out, so be it. But as a rule of thumb, I try to do my best to facilitate conversations with people that I don't think are that hysterical. But yeah, if it's that bad, you just have to cut your losses sometimes, you know?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that was biggest for me in terms of just, you know, you hear people say that saying that, you know, I didn't leave the left left me. Mm-hmm. I'd say up until 2016, from about 2012 to till 2016, shocker, I was really big into the Young Turks at the time.
Same.
And right. And yeah, they're an example of when 2016 hit, because leading up till then, for me, the biggest thing that I pulled away from them, they did a lot of like anti-cop stuff. And sure, at the time, I was like, fuck the police, blah, blah, blah. But for me, the biggest message that they have is we can't trust the corporate media, the pharmaceutical companies, all of the sort of, I don't know what the exact distinction is, but it was like, beliefs that I was like, yes, fuck the mainstream media on all sides, just that I felt that was more an independent style messaging at the time, or at least it was a counter message. And yeah, dude, as soon as Trump got into office, like pretty much night and day over there. They're now we work with CNN, now we take their hosts as sources, and everybody that they were preaching against is they just find themselves strange bedfellows. And that was smelly to me. I was like, this is, again, you guys are disingenuous. Same thing with Bernie. So I'm done.
Well, I mean, to me, the biggest example, there's so many examples. The most anti-war people, we lost Aftershock. Let me bring him in here. I say this all the time. The most anti-war people, when I was, again, I'm older. So when the Iraq war was going on, I'm just entering colleges. The most anti-war people were left-wingers, undoubtedly, right? How they were able to, in 16 years, or less than 16 years, right? Yeah, 2 terms of Obama and 1 term of Trump. So, how they were able, 12 years, they were able to take the most anti-war people and make them the most pro-war people. It is an amazing feat of propaganda because Obama's cool, he's hip, he's the first black president, and I don't say that facetiously. Like, it's stupid to judge people that way, but you're just ignoring the historic significance if you don't see how that would, particularly if you're an older black person that lived through the civil rights, that's a big deal. I would never vote for someone for their skin color, but I understand. I had some black friends, and I was like, look, Obama's going to be a fucking disaster, but I'll tip my cap. If it's a big moment to you, I get it. I do. I'm not going to shit on that for you. So he could do no wrong, though, right? Because the historic nature of his president meant, well, and he was a good speaker and he seemed hip and cool. So all of a sudden, he was just George Bush's 3rd term, as far as I was concerned, with the wars and all of that shit, with the treatment of Wall Street. But he was different. He was opposite, even though he wasn't. And so then Trump comes in, and Trump did things like bombing Syria that I was against. But just speaking of like, well, why are we doing these wars? Why are we fighting Russia in Syria when we're supposed to be there fighting Islamic terrorism? Well, why aren't we? It's like, yes, exactly. Great question. And then to watch everyone freak shit. And, well, we can't pull out of that war. We can't. We have to be. NATO's great. We have to support the bombing of Libya. You're like, wait a minute. You were marching with me in 2004. What the hell? Mm-hmm. And my friends called me. They're like, you changed. I changed. I'm still anti-war. You're pro-war. And you're so propagandized. Or maybe the even easier example of that is I've been told since the movie Sicko came out by Michael Moore, if not earlier, that the pharmaceutical companies are these greedy, racist bastards. But now I have to take their product or I shouldn't be allowed to go grocery shopping. And they wonder, like, I was saying this till I was blue in the face, like, is it any wonder that the black community is that's least likely to have the vaccine? Maybe because you spent 10 years telling them that all the makers of these vaccines are systemically racist and want to kill them all. And so they took you at face value and they're like, so wait a minute, 2 years ago you told me that Pfizer were these racist people that were just exploiting me to make me unhealthy so that they could get a paycheck from me every month, right? That's what we told you. But now you're saying I have to unquestionably accept this vaccine that they're going to make billions upon billions of dollars. And with a straight face, they're like, yep, that's what we're telling you. And that's where you're right. Like, it's one thing to be sincere. That's why I'll debate, like, Infrared or Jackson Hinkle. They're like legitimate communists or socialists, but they believe it. They really do. And they'll call out when the people they support, like Bernie, all of a sudden are off that. They're like, no, we don't like that. But basically the defining factor of the left that you see it today is just they say a bunch of stuff that they don't believe. As soon as their masters tell them, oh, no, now go the opposite on that, they're like, okay,
And so one of the things we talk about, too, is the debate between whether they're evil, whether they're just plain corrupt, I guess you could say that's the same thing, or they're just really bad at their job, right? Those are the things that we kind of like, okay, well, which one is it? Which one, are they bad faith or are they lying? Which one is it? And in my opinion, I mean, maybe we'll disagree on this, Rob, but I kind of don't really care. I think it's just as bad regardless, because I think the corruption is, it's just completely out there, and it's provable. Like this like, you good, Ginge? I think we lost him. It's all good.
No, no, I'm sorry. I'm
okay.
getting
No,
my
you're good.
dog to stop snoring. I don't know if y'all can hear it. It's just gnawing logs over here.
No,
Sorry,
you're
guys.
good. No,
It's no problem.
So I was gonna say your number one, at least in my opinion, your number one topic, Rob, that you always talk about is Russiagate. You know, Russiagate is one example of like provable just corruption from the FBI that we see. And, you know, in you know, for me, I think it's like, I try to understand it, but, you know, from the things that I get, which is undisputable, is, you know, the situation with Paul Gambetta, right? Where he literally went to Reddit to fucking ask people, how the hell do I take Hillary's name out of these fucking emails? You know, the Hunter Biden story, all of this kind of stuff. There is literally no evidence that we should have locked down children. You know what I mean? All of these kind of provable things that we did that were wrong. And what do they say? It's always the same fucking thing, which is it's not happening. And then when it's undeniably provable that it happened, oh well, it's old news, right? Anyways, let's talk about fucking Ted Cruz or some shit, right? And it's these kind of things that ended up making me, at the least, leave these kinds of people. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so aggressive and so, like, if anybody fucking sees me on Twitter, they think I'm losing my mind, which I kind of fucking am, is I think I kind of relate to Candace Owens a lot, is that I feel like I was used. I feel like these people wanted to use me as a fucking, like I was just nothing but a tool, just a mindless zombie that they could just use. And now they look at me as even more disgusting because I should be on their side. And I feel like that kind of looking back into the cult and seeing what I used to be kind of really fucking sets me off to no ends. And I kind of understand with people like Candace Owens on why she acts the way she does. Is I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there. I'll just break it down as quickly as I can. The idea of, are they incompetent? Are they corrupt? Like, it's different when it comes to like individuals that we might talk to on a day-to-day basis versus people at the heads of these institutions, like,
Sure.
you know, John Brennan at the CIA, or like there's a significant difference there. Sitch and Adam, when I was on with them, it was the same argument. I get so tired of this argument where you'll point out bad behavior after bad behavior from the FBI, and they're like, yeah, but maybe they made a mistake there. Like, over and over, dozens of times, maybe just a mistake. I agree with you in that sense, Aftershock. It's irrelevant to me. Okay, in fact, it's probably worse. I would rather have a corrupt intel agency than an incompetent one, because a corrupt intel agency might say, we're going to get this evidence about Carter Page from the CIA that says, yes, he worked with us, and we're going to change it to say, no, he didn't. And then we'll spy on him. That's what Kevin Kleinsmith did, right? Now, that's bad. That's bad. But that, you understand that because they're corrupt. Now let's say that Kevin Kleinsmith finds evidence that, you know, some guy named Ted is about to bomb a building in the United States, right? He's some sort of terrorist, right? A corrupt person who hated Trump would still say, oh, we got to stop this terrorist bombing. Has nothing to do with Trump, right? But an incompetent person might look at that and go, I'm going to change the evidence to say he's not going to bomb that building. And then we have a bunch of dead bodies. So in some senses, it's like, if your argument is that the people at the top of the FBI are just incompetent, so incompetent they don't know they're not supposed to change evidence to plan it to go after certain people, then they deserve to be disbanded even faster than if they're corrupt. But to me, the question that Sitch and Adam, it's sort of in line with you that they were trying to go with, was take those people out of the equation. The regular like lefties that I stream with, right? Do they believe their bullshit? Like, do they know when they're lying that they're lying? Or do they truly believe they're lying? But I don't think it matters that much. Some of them no doubt know that they're being bad faith, and others don't. But the problem is, it all comes from the same sort of institutional bias where they think that not only do they know more than people that they disagree with, but they think they're morally superior. And so it's just a different level of that. If you remember, Aftershock might remember this, Ginge, you could believe that this happened probably. I was talking to this guy who hated Trump, and we were talking about the 2020 election, and it was so insane. He sounded like a normal guy, and we're just talking about like, oh, Medicare for all and this and that. And then as soon as I said Trump, you couldn't see him. It was audio only. You could feel the visible hate, like just hatred exuding from him. And I was like, let's just cut to brass tacks. If you were a poll worker and you thought Trump was going to win where you live in Arizona, would you have cheated? Would you have thrown 200 ballots in the garbage? And he's like, I don't know. And then he's like, yeah, I would. And does that guy know that throwing those ballots away is a bad thing? Yes, he knows. He just justifies it by saying, but I have to do it because this is literally Hitler. And that's what we're up against, So the fact that you were being used, of course you were being used, right? Because all that matters is stopping Hitler. All that matters is stopping the racist Nazis. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And all of us are just tools. If you're not anti-racist, you're racist. That's their mantra. It's not enough to just be like, sure, I think you guys should be able to speak, and I agree with you 90% of the time. If you are not with them 100% of the time, then you are the enemy. And I understand that visceral nature. Not everyone goes that far. Not everyone, like the average lefty might not go that far. That's your neighbor or something like that. The treatment of them deserves to be different. The people that should know better, those that are in office, those that are extremely wealthy and that are controlling our institutions, or those that are streamers like me and you, Aftershock, fuck them. I'll give them this shit back every bit as hard as they want to, try. I know where they're coming from. I know what they're doing. And that's why, I waffle back between trying to be polite and facilitate a conversation. But when I feel like it, I'll just say, go fuck yourself. It's like, you can't tell me if right-wingers weren't rioting like the George Floyd riots that these people wouldn't be flipping shit. We all know it. And when they go, oh, no, I wouldn't have been, my response is going to be like, it'd be different if it was someone at the gas station that I'm paying, I'm buying a diet soda. I'm not going to be like, well, fuck you. But if it's someone I'm streaming with, that's what I'll tell them. I'll be like, yeah, fuck off. You're full of shit, That's how I look at it. What do you think, Ginge?
No, I'm kind of with you to a large degree there. I come from the left as well. And, I've done many I spent my time in the trenches arguing with people online. And so I definitely understand like the disingenuous nature and I mean, that's how I try to approach people, is just being honest about, my thoughts and opinions, and, always trying to be polite mostly. But if I see people just sort of like, at this point, I'm sort of a little deactivated, I guess you'd say, or just my focus is more on comic books, and maybe we can segue to that at some point. But but for me, it's like, if I just see you being a maniac, I already know I want nothing to do with you. I already know you're likely to not hear anything I have to say. So I don't see that as a battle that I can really win. And, Marty, when him and I were chatting, we'd been playing Bloodborne and Dark Souls and just, spending literally 400 hours together just playing video games. So I felt pretty comfortable talking with him. And my best friend in real life is he's kind of stuck in this sort of, kind of like mid-2000s atheism element. And I try to pull him away from that every now and then. Like, he sent me an article today. Just my buddy's a gym rat, and he sent me this article. It's not really politics related, but it was a Joe Rogan thing about steroids. And I had actually watched the episode. My buddy was like, just completely got fed BS, like clickbait, and was like believing it. And I was like, no. I had to break it all down for him. And then, I tried to not rub his nose in it at all, but just, genuinely from a place of respect and care, be like, look, buddy, I don't want either one of us to get caught up in this bullshit. And the only way for us not to is to just come at this more critical. You got to be, these people are playing a game. Journalists are playing a game. They're running a business. Most of them don't give a shit, I believe, especially the higher up. Especially I think the higher up, you get more like weapons in your tool belt. You know what I mean? You sort of have to become more lethal. You can only sort of fumble your way up so high, I think, for the most part. But that's, we can always see differently. But
yeah, I by the way, I'll say real quick. Look, it's something we don't talk about enough, but maybe as someone who's into art and in comics and things like this, I think with the sophistication of deepfakes that we see coming, it'll be amazingly easy to see 30-second Twitter videos of Hillary Clinton saying we should kill all white people, and people are going to go fucking nuts. In my area of the world, they're going to be like, what? And I constantly try to remind people, if something sounds that batshit crazy, really, really be like, whoa. Like, I'm not saying that people don't say crazy stuff like kill white. I'm not saying that. But when you see, let me give you an example. There was a Babylon Bee article. You remember when Hillary ripped up the State of the Union address, or Pelosi ripped up the State of the Union address? A good friend of mine, I was having dinner with the next day and was like, I heard that during the State of the Union, Nancy Pelosi stood up and ripped a Bible in half. And I was like, no, that was a Babylon Bee article. That did not happen. First off, you think this frail lady has the strength to rip a fucking half?
And secondly, ripped the State of the Union.
I was like, that's a story that's so outlandish. You have to be like, really? Now, come on. You know what I mean? But so it happens on the right as well. But I think it's definitely more prevalent on the left where, because the bubble is so much. This is the reason why. It's not that if the right didn't take the power that the left has now, that it wouldn't happen. But the reason that it's worse on the left now is because if you say something that's inaccurate on the right, you'll have every institution being like, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie, that's wrong. But the other way around it, if everyone says, oh, Joe Rogan had someone on that said Nazis were good, you're going to have to go to some small place like me to be like, that's not true. Look at what was said. That didn't happen. They're taking this out of context, right? And so it's so easy for the majority of people that aren't sifting through shit. Most people aren't trained to do that, or they don't find it entertaining, or they're busy. They have lives. And you can't blame them for that. And so they're watching Stephen Colbert, and Stephen Colbert says something, and they're like, well, he's not even a newsman. He's just an entertainer. So that must be, must be true. He has no skin in the game, but he does. They all do. And when you get all of that, I feel bad for people, if you grew up now, like my son, he'll probably go to a school, hopefully not because we're sending him to Catholic school, but he'll probably go to a school where all of his teachers have a left-wing bent. Then he'll go to college where it's an extreme left-wing bent. All of his entertainers, the musicians he likes, the athletes he likes, they're going to be left-wing. All of the people that are in movies and stuff like that, they're going to be left-wing. And so when he eventually runs into a right-wing opinion, it's easy to understand how it's like, you're an evil, horrible person. No one thinks like you. But we do. We just don't have a voice. At least not near as much as we should. So, yeah, I agree. The more tools you have, I don't want that power, right? Like, I'm not sitting here like I'm benevolent. If I had these tools, I would be good. No, I'd be a sack of shit probably. I probably would be. But that's why I advocate for not leaving, individualism. That's what I want. Personal responsibility and personal, liberty. So I don't know. I would love to talk about the comic book stuff too, but we'll leave Aftershock take it where he wants to go here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
No, yeah. We can segue into that. But I did want to talk about, because I guess I do take a little bit of a different approach than you guys. I think. I don't know if I'm just like more radical, or just like overall just a more aggressive like guy or something like that. But
you are, yes.
I definitely am. I am. That's maybe part of him 50-50. But like Rob, you talk about, these people that whether they know they're wrong or maybe they're just brainwashed, they've been fed a bunch of lies and stuff like that. But maybe you say like it doesn't matter and stuff like that. But to me, I kind of take a more cynical approach. I feel as though these people, and I know it sounds pretty mean, but I think someone coming at me, arguing with me online, has to prove that they are good faith. If they do not prove that they are good faith, I will assume that they are bad faith. I think that this side has earned it. That I may be a dick for that, but I just think that's the road that we should take. I think we should stop assuming that these people are arguing in good faith. I think they've definitely earned that. They're not consistent about anything. And just like let me use an example, like the Twitter files, right? Destiny is out here saying that, it's nothing. It's nothing. Like, we already knew that's a big old nothing burger. It's nothing like that. But I don't even want to argue at that point. We don't even have to go that far. I feel like we're running into their trap when we do. We need to ask ourselves, wait a second, is what they're saying right here, which is it's a nothing burger, we already knew this, even something they care about? Because I would bet my fucking life if literally Elon Musk came out and leaked videos of the executives at Twitter saying like, fuck these conservatives, like just fucking ban them, like they're a bunch of bigots and stuff like that, the left would not care. The left would not care. And this whole argument of saying it's a nothing burger, we already knew all of this stuff. Like when Twitter said they were shadow banning, they said that they weren't shadow banning, they were just using a different definition for it. All of it is a smokescreen. All of it is just another hoop for you to go through. And when you go through that hoop, they will either say they don't care or they will bring out another hoop.
Well, you're probably
that's my
right.
opinion.
But you're probably right. But there's several things to unpack there. Like the first is, it depends on how you define bad faith. Now, let's take someone like Pisco. I call Pisco bad faith all the time. I stand by that. But I question, is he bad faith in that he knows he's bullshitting? Or does he believe his bullshit? Is he so partisan that he doesn't care? Well, that's the point. Does it really matter at the end of the day? But he probably is just so partisan that subconsciously, any amount of evidence of FBI corruption against anyone connected to Trump you show him, he'll be able to rationalize. Like, even if you had a signed signature from Comey, to a letter to Hillary Clinton saying, like, let's fucking steal this election in 2020, we're going to make shit up, he would still find a way to be. He's not in his head going, yeah, I know that's bad, but I'm going to bullshit anyone anyways because my team. I think he'd find a way to really believe it was okay in his head. But it doesn't matter. But but there's more to it than that. Like, when someone's bad faith on that sort of topic, does that mean they're bad faith if they're talking to me about, like, well, here's why I'm a Christian? Maybe not. Or let's say we're talking about, like, why we should have more regulation on Bitcoin. These things, maybe they're not bad faith because maybe they don't see it as much as a team sport thing, right? Where it's like, Trump's bad, he's evil, so I am bad faith on that always, or bad faith in the way we're saying. It could be either that you're bad faith or that you're so biased, right? So on that issue surrounding things revolving Trump, but maybe if the FBI goes after Mitt Romney, maybe all of a sudden Pisco could be like, well, yeah, that's bad. So he's not always defending the FBI. It's just when it's his big issue, Orange Man bad, then he's always going to defend him. And the other question is, do we assume that about everyone? That's a tough proposition. Because the problem with that is, what if Ginge would have done that with you? Right? What if he would have said, you know what, Aftershock, fuck you, you're bad faith, you don't believe any of this shit, go fuck yourself, see ya. Then you never have the conversation that leads where you are today. Even people that are bad faith, the reason I'll debate Destiny, who I think's full of shit on these topics, right? But that's 10,000 people that are watching me that come away thinking like, well, Rob was basically pretty reasonable and he made good points. I disagree. Of course they're going to disagree because they like their guy, but I thought he was reasonable. If I go in there just like, fuck you, you fucking sack of shit, blah, 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 what's going to happen is everyone's going to be like, see, the right doesn't have any arguments. They brought this guy that's supposed to be this good right-wing debater, and he comes on and he immediately fucking blows up. And so, yeah, when I'm debating, now sometimes I do get a little off the handle, but that's just who I am. But when, one of the complaints I get all the time when I'm debating certain groups of people, if you would have watched the full 6 hours with me and Adam and Sitch Aftershock, you might have been like, you should have told them to fuck off. Okay, well, do you think when Adam was being snarky with me, I should have been like, hey, you know what, go fuck yourself? I probably had the right to do it. He was being a dick, right? Mm-hmm. But that was an audience that I knew was a centrist audience. Now go read the message board. Go read the YouTube video comments under that. Almost every one of them's like, this Rob guy kicked ass. But if I would have just been like, fuck you guys, you're bad faith, you're full of shit, this conversation's irrelevant, I would have lost access to those thousands of people that watched that video.
Okay, so this is perfect. I actually wanted to get into that because this kind of touches into culture, right? And because you were talking, and obviously it stems to back into our argument that we had like a couple weeks ago, where I was telling you that you should call these people out. You should definitely at some point you have to laugh at these motherfuckers. You have to. Okay, and this is where I get to where conservatives need to not only think of culture, but they have to think about something that I kind of want to maybe coin, I guess, but I think we should think about negative culture. I think negative culture is really important. I think being a little bit of a bully is very important. I was bullied for not wearing a mask. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make fun of you for wearing a fucking mask in a fucking car and also masking your fucking children. Okay? Because there is nothing you can say to that person that will change their mind. There is nothing. Like, but go ahead. good.
But let me push back a little, like, and I want to bring Ginge in here, right? Like,
Yeah.
So Ginge's explanation is, like I said, something I see a lot of people, which was having an affinity for the left and then sort of getting disenfranchised, not just by seeing someone like Bernie, but also by seeing extreme people on that side. Would it alienate you if you saw people on the right basically acting in the same way, just in the inverse? I mean, I think that there's a possibility that it alienates people that are more in the center, that haven't taken a firm foot on either side. And so if you start being like, well, that guy made fun of me because I went to Walmart and he said I had to wear a mask. So that guy, Aftershock, made fun of me for wearing a mask. But then the place I went in and I didn't have a mask, Rob made fun of me for not wearing a mask. So I'm going to say, fuck both of you. I don't care what either of you have to say.
Yeah, it just depends on what time I was. Excuse me, what time I was in my life, as far as today. I definitely do try to approach people just in a much more open mind. Like, again, as far as like going to people that I know just are just outright going to hate me for just simple things. That's not even a conversation I want to really have. But if it's friends, it's somebody I might try to talk to a little bit. It just depends on how, because I do think belief, it depends a lot with a lot of people. You know what I mean? There's if somebody really believes it and they're a good friend, it just depends on the issue. It's like, if it's something, typically most of my friends aren't that wild in their beliefs. But I have a YouTube show, and we just interview comic creators. And I don't know if you've heard of CG, Rob, in your neck of the woods.
No.
Comicsgate. It's sort of this.
A little bit, yeah.
Right. It's kind of.
I haven't heard it called that, but yeah, I know.
Right. It's like basically the counterculture movement to how the left has invaded mainstream comics and entertainment. It's the comic book side of that. And there's lots of former pros from Marvel and DC, and also guys like me that through crowdfunding have been able to basically establish a foot in the door, and where we were all gatekept, especially today, because if you have any beliefs outside of anything as far left as possible, if you've caught any of the latest stories with just how crazy they're going with these characters that have been beloved for decades and decades, it's not even a place I would want to be at this point in the game. So like, what the sort of CG movement is, and with more specifically with my YouTube show though, is I have an interview show where I bring on a creator once a week, and we just basically talk their book. And every now and then you'll find closer to the mainstream type pros who are looking to, just go out and promote a book that they're doing. And if they put out a call to like come on shows, I will usually hit them up. And there's this big sort of barrier to entry. Like, if people in the mainstream know that you're quote unquote CG, like, they will outright tell you to go fuck yourself. There's a whole lot of that. And so I've had a few people on my show that are mainstream that know what side of the fence I'm on, that I know what side of the fence they're on. And we don't even talk politics on the show. We just interact as humans and bond over comics and what we love and what we're here to do and create. And in that way, I try to be, and I think I've been successful enough to some degree, to whatever small, in terms of like being a good ambassador for showing, because people think CG or Comicsgate is racist,
Right.
Every sort of ist, that's it. But it's not the case at all. There's creators of all, of literally everything, you name it, we got it. And it's just people that don't believe in the far left messaging and don't believe in the, the bullying and the gatekeeping and, largely everything else that makes up the sort of right-wing belief system. CG is largely a part of, but you've got people on the left within there too. It's a mixture of politics plus the preservation of the art form of comic books.
Well, let me ask you this, and I think Aftershock will be interested. This sort of goes to what we're talking about here. I could relate more to sports. So I don't watch sports like I used to. I would like to say it's like, because I'm tired of this kneeling and shit. That's not why so much. Mostly it's because I have a son, and Sundays are busy now, so I don't have time to sit around and watch football. But I contended that the problem with Kaepernick wasn't so much his political statement. it was a political statement, not what it was. In other words, people were like, I just want to watch football. I just want to be entertained. I don't want this shit thrown in my face. Like, it's thrown in my face every day at work. It's thrown in my face when I go to school. It's thrown in my face when I watch movies, when I watch late night TV. So Sundays, I just want to watch football. I don't want to have to be reminded there's all these political things and issues. And I feel the same about comic books. I am someone who collected comic books it's very sparingly when I was a teenager, but I loved, like, when I was, it's oversaturated now with all the movies, but like when that first X-Men movie came out, I was there. I saw it like 3 times in theaters. Fucking loved it. I loved the X-Men Saturday morning cartoon. The Batman, like the 92 animated Batman show, is still in my mind one of the greatest TV shows ever. It is just an awesome show for adults or for kids. And for me, the issue with comics, it's not their politics. It's the fact that the art comes second to the politics, which makes a shitty product, because it's like, I could handle, Thor becoming a woman. I could handle that. If it organically flowed through, this is the best decision for this comic, for the story we're trying to tell. But it is obvious that that's not what's happening. It's obvious that they're like, we have this ideological or political agenda, and so we're going to make something around that, and then that something is shit. So my question to you is, when you're as an ambassador for Comicsgate, is your message more like, look, it's the art first, and yeah, we all have ideology, and sometimes that finds its way in? Or are you specifically saying we need to push an opposite ideology of them and make the comic around that?
It's kind of a mixture of both to some degree, because there's also other elements that make up sort of the main beliefs of how CG kind of works. And like, it sounds like it's kind of cliquish, and in some degree, I mean, it's a very tight and growing community of, people that we don't just believe in the same stuff, or not, to some degree. We also, it's a whole ecosystem of basically, independent comic creators and fans and so forth. And one of the main things that's sort of our kind of main belief system, I guess you'd say, is like customer service and treating your customers with respect. So that's like one of the main keys. Like, you don't just, if somebody doesn't like your book, I mean, everybody's free to handle things how they want, but if somebody doesn't like your book and just says, like, the goal is to basically never tell a customer to go fuck themselves,
right?
Like, they're a paying customer, they bought your book, just try to rise above that, because that's literally the stuff that we complain about with the other the mainstream guys. But I'm sorry, I forgot what the initial part of your question was.
Well, I was just saying, like, the point is, like, it is because I think a lot of the frustration is we're going to put the message before the art. But I also agree with Aftershock, and it's something that I talk about a lot, that is, in order to win the culture war, people that aren't woke need to start using whatever they're doing to sort of show, look, we could be part of that culture as well. So how do you run that fine line where it's like, look, the art should come first, but also we do think it's important to have our ideology there?
Right. So for me, as far as the art, here's how I do both of those things, actually. I purposefully do not write whatever their type of belief system is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't actively try to combat it, like directly, because sort of where that starts to affect the art is like, you start basically monologuing political spiels in the middle of a comic book, or ruining the whole storyline of, nobody really wants that. And we can tell within the mainstream comic sales, because that's all over, Marvel, DC, right, Image, IDW, all of it, it's all over the place, and it stinks. And as far as like comic sales monthly, like, the Japanese destroy us, right, every day of the week. And they don't, it's just fun escapism. Their shit is insane, but it is just fun escapism for the most part. So for me, what I try to do is I just actively, I don't bend the knee. This is how I look at it. I write what I believe is the best that I can write, and I refuse to do what they want me to do. And I have no doubt that I'm going to continue to be here while because a lot of it is grifting too. Like, people see comic books as a way, and it is in some part, because what sort of sometimes makes up the gist of a comic book can be boiled down to storyboards. And that's, a lot of what, Hollywood uses is storyboards, right, to set up scenes and yada, yada. So, and a lot of material, as we've seen with like all the Marvel movies and all this stuff, but like, there's been comic book series. Actually, this is the point I make with like how far back comics go with Hollywood. is this is just an earlier one, but the Addams Family that started off as a like an illustration, not even a traditional comic, but like, you know, old school illustrations, and you know, Charles Addams used to do in the 40s and 50s, and that grew into, you know, this big franchise today. So they've been doing this forever, and that makes sense. It's fine if you want to follow your passion and take yourself where the art takes you, right on. But a lot of what we got today is we've got political activists wanting to be cool because it's now cooler than ever to be a comic book fan, right? It's sort of that 90s wear a punk band shirt that you don't know any music to. We've got that with political activists in comics who are trying to who have no respect for the culture, first of all, too, by the way, and they actively want to destroy it. They shit on Stanley. They shit on everything that they know we love because they want to come in, they want to replace it, they want to tear it all down, and they want to rebuild it in their image. You know, it's very much erasing history. It's changing. Like, there's an argument that comics have always been political. I don't even care about that argument because I know that they don't have to be. And if you want to do them politically, that's fine. Enter the market and do your thing. But, you know, this whole mass sort of war, it is a legitimate culture war in that regard, where like you know, there would be fighting in the streets over these comic book nerds. I think if you got enough of them in a room, like there's very heated hour-long debates with just, you know, like the big heads of various, you know, groups, and it's pretty intense, man. It's a fight for American comics. I mean, I know it's just silly papers, you know, silly funny books.
Well, no, I disagree. Like, Aftershock, let me ask you. I think both you and Ginge probably are more involved in gaming than I am. Like, I play like Call of Duty with my friends just to get killed right off the bat and bullshit to them. That's the extent. I play a little chess and then some single player games. But Gamergate, right? Like, for me, the strength of Gamergate was that there was so much that it was so important about that. It was a story of journalism gone corrupt, right? Of, you know, these shady reviews that were given with people that were involved in this, that browbeat you about moral authority. And then once you started to investigate them, were some of the most objectively immoral people, you know, committing adultery, pressuring people into sex, things like that. But the big part of that, the biggest part of that was games are huge for a particular segment of people, young people, and as older people like me that are nostalgic about, like, I played Nintendo, I played Super Nintendo growing up. And I think what happens is this sort of woke ideology, you have to give the devil their due. They see when people are passionate about something. And with passion means that there's some sort of power you could have there. So if you could convince, like in Gamergate, or you could convince in the comic book industry or whatever, it's not just simple papers. It's things that legitimately have affected people's lives in incredibly positive ways. That people that maybe weren't passionate about things that we used to consider more traditional, like athletics or band. It's like there were people that I knew in school that video games and comics were a huge part of their life. And they went on, based on those things, to make friendships, to get careers, you know, or even if they didn't get careers in it. And if you could control that, those people that are now, it's one thing for like us that it's like, well, we remember Stan Lee's Spider-Man, but it's another thing, right? If you're just coming into it, if you're 14 and you open your first comic book and you're just beating the fucking head with this woke message from people that don't even give a shit about the source material. They don't care. They don't give a shit about Spider-Man. It's just, well, I'm woke and I could go there and I could put that shit on paper and have someone else draw a picture of Spider-Man. Yeah, like, do you see a correlation, or do you see a correlation with sort of Gamergate and comic book gate Aftershock?
Well, you know, this will probably be a question for Ginge because you know, I mean, I'm going to buy his stuff and stuff, but I haven't looked into, like, you know, the comic book, like you know what I mean, like the comic book field and everything like that. So I mean, like, Ginge, if you have any thoughts on
Certainly.
that?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's honestly, it's Gamergate 2.0. It's the same thing you described, Rob. Corrupt journalists, just like there's all these video game journalism websites. You get the same thing for comic books. You've got mainstream pros calling conventions and getting people canceled. You know, this has been going on for years. Calling small publishers and basically pressuring them to, if you don't take this creator off your next previews list, or if you don't, you know, pull out of publishing this guy, you know, there's just it's the same thing as Gamergate. There's so much, you know, incestuous behavior behind the scenes. I actually look at it like this. At this point in time, like Marvel and DC, we've heard people describe politics and American politics a lot like Rome during its collapse and all
Right.
that stuff. And to boil that down more like to mainstream comics, I see Marvel and DC as sort of Rome in that time period at the height of just they've got anything you could want as a comic creator. They've got Batman, they've got Spider-Man, they've got Superman, they've got the dream, they're squandering it all. It's festering, it's decaying. And you've got folks like CG, honestly, like I think at some point, if these companies don't just sort of, not because I don't think they're ever going to collapse, but I think everybody else is going to get to play with the characters through licensing. I think that's going to be the play in some time. But no, I see it a lot like folks like CG and just indie guys that are writing comics because we love comics are kind of like the barbarians on the gate. And it is only a matter of time before we, come in and, we're not out here raping women, I guess, but we are going to take over your stuff, hopefully. At least take it back,
Take it back.
See, like I would have never even known that the comic book field was like that bad. But it just goes to show that like this is seeping through everything. It's seeping through every single thing, right?
Yeah,
and
everywhere.
I think that's it kind of goes back to what to what we were talking about like culture and stuff, and more specifically what I was talking about, right? And I of like this thing that I call like negative culture, right? Because the question basically comes is that I kind of ask myself, and I kind of take like the more like big papa fascist angle on this, which is basically, should we do the same, right? Should we do the same? Because the reason they're able to do these things and the reason it's accepted is because they have a stranglehold on the culture. They really do. Right. And it's OK for them while we're over here saying to ourselves, like, and I think it was Rachel Wilson who retweeted this, was saying they were quoting a lefty saying, like, we're going to indoctrinate your children. We're going to give them puberty blockers and so forth. And then on the bottom of that was a conservative saying, I disagree with you, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. And that kind of really fucking hurt. That really hurt, right? Because they really do have a stranglehold. And
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Okay.
And there's a certain truth to that, right? Like at some point, it's like you can't be like, well, we'll compromise. It's the old. I had this first argument when I realized this, defending Ron Paul in the debate community in like 2006, right? Because I had this person that was decent in the debate community. He's like, Rob, what Ron Paul needs to do is compromise with people. And I was like, well, what's the compromise? Ron Paul's basically like the government should stay out of our lives. And the other people are like the government should have total control over your life. So the compromise is what? Give them 50% control? And then once they have that, they'll be like, well, that's not enough. So then what's the compromise? Well, we want 50% control and you want 100. So what? Give them 75%? So like, I get it. And you're absolutely right that at some point, like you have to sort of say, look, we have to use similar tactics, but there's a limit to that. Like you bring up Big Papa Fascist, like he's a Christian nationalist. He believes that you can't rape your wife. They want to, like, he believes that we basically should indoctrinate children in our government schools that are ran by authoritarian Christians.
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't sound like the society I want to live in. Now I like PPF and but if somehow the pendulum 10 years from now swings so back the other side, I'll be right here arguing against authoritarian rightism.
Exactly.
I will.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying. So you can't give in to everything they're doing. Like I can't be like, well, their tactic is to use the FBI to lock up, simple protesters and so we should use the FBI to lock up pro-choice protesters for 20 years. Well, we can't do that. We can't.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, okay? Because this is perfect. It's going exactly where I wanted to go. So it's this idea of, I don't know if you guys have heard of this. I've mentioned it to you, Rob. I don't know if you know about it, Ginge, but it's called the paradox of tolerance, right? It's been talked about with Destiny, and basically the idea is if we are tolerant of the intolerant, then those intolerant people will wipe us out. So what do we do? Right. And Destiny goes through this. He was talking about it, and he was basically saying that, like, he read this book, and the author was basically trying to make it clear that, you in your journey of trying to change things, you cannot in your journey lose yourself. Like you may think it's just a little chip. It's just another chip. But once you're at the end of the road, you're a completely different person, and you look back and you're exactly who you swore not to fight against. But you know what, Rob? I'm going to take the stance on this. This is basically pretty radical, right? Is I'm asking, which one would you rather have? Would you rather have the side that we see now, or would you rather go down the road of BPF and trust yourself, trust our side to honestly call it out? Because I do. I trust in myself to know, okay, we should not go that far. Gay marriage for me is fine. Like that is fine.
But it's not fine for them. It's not fine for them. Right?
That's fine.
Right?
And we'll fight against that when it comes.
But listen, there is a ring of truth. Everything is thresholds. Everything is how much you want to get. No one's gonna like my answer. I'll give you my honest answer. Like, this is my honest to goodness answer. 200 years from now, I'll be dead. No one will remember fuck all about me. Right? All I'll care about my deathbed was, did I do right by my family? Did I do right by my loved ones? Could I look myself in the mirror at the end of the day? And if I have to sell my soul because I want the politics of this country to be what I want in the next 30 years, no, it's not worth it to me. It's not. Instead, I will fight within what I think is legitimate, and that threshold is going to be different from each one of us. But I will fight within that and do as much as I honestly can to make changes that I consider positive. But another way of asking this is, let's take it back to Ginge. Ginge just outlined, it's not just that they're politics at Marvel, right? It's they're calling conventions saying shut them out. Let's say 5 years from now, Ginge's books take off, right? And all of a sudden he's got millions to throw around. A coalition of people like him. Now they're the big dog in the market. They're getting TV deals and shit like that. Ginge, would you find it and be like, well, fuck it, we're going to twist the dagger. Now we're going to call and say, if you don't fire this guy at Marvel, we'll never work with you again. We won't. What's your take on that? Would you use those tools?
No. Probably not personally. I think by the time, just naturally, I honestly think by the time we get there, let's just say in this scenario, those people are actually going to be gone. I think for some,
what people,
degree,
the lefties,
the ones that are the worst that he's talking.
Yeah. The most extreme head, sort of the figureheads of the editors in chiefs and but it all really, it's this corporate ideology that is just how it's just basically, what is it, the GSI scores or whatever, or ESG. I likely wouldn't do that. I don't know. It's I feel like, our work is going to speak for itself. That's just my belief. I know there's people who are way more, similar to Aftershock here, in that they are a little bit more aggressive. And, I've probably got friends that would do that, and I still love them to death. Mwah, little smooch for you. But me personally, no, I wouldn't. I maybe it's just similar to how I approached Aftershock. I've been a crazy leftist. I've been a crazy person. You know what I mean? So, and I'm learning a lot about the value of forgiveness. And there's some things that, not to sort of teeter the line of like accepting the intolerable, because there is shit that just is, not tolerable.
Of course.
And none of this is to say that, well, we just let things slide, because I completely agree with this. Like, I understand that to some degree the government has to have power, but I'm not a fan of like, yeah, okay, so let's settle on 50%, because then it is going to ratchet up over time. It's like, there's some degree of like realism we have to maintain when we're expecting how we want to help shape the future. But to the question, I think trying to like coup de grace folks mostly won't be necessary, but maybe depends. If we're talking about arresting somebody that's, Hillary Clinton or something like that, what would your thoughts be? I mean, it would be a humongous deal if we just outright did that. You know what I mean? Like, or if somebody, the DOJ or whoever, Trump got into power or whatever, if that happened, that would be a big deal. Would it be the right thing to do for the country as a whole? I don't know. Probably, in my opinion. Just to show justice being served.
That's right. That's the difference, though. It is just, right? Like, she's entitled to a fair trial. I wouldn't just say, well, throw her in some gulag someday and never have a trial. I wouldn't say that. But the evidence of the crimes that she's committed, it should be allowed to defend that in trial and have a fair trial and face justice in that way. I would say it this way, right? Like, there is a difference in tactics, right? Like, for example, take voting. Should we ballot harvest in legal ways like the left is doing? Absolutely. Do I think that the system we have that allows ballot harvesting is a good system? No. But we have to use the tools within the system that we have. But would I be for fraudulent fraudulently breaking the law or something? Well, of course no. One, because if I said that online, I'd be an idiot. But second, I just legitimately am not, right? Violence is another thing. Yes, I understand that there are people on the left that say, fuck you, you're evil, I'll punch you in the face, you're a Nazi. I won't do that to them. If I have to defend myself, if they're hitting me, I'll swing back. But I'm not going to embrace that, right? So there are tactics. I think we should go on the offense. The people that tell us that we're racist, I think we should correctly tell them they're the ones that are racist because they view everything through the lens of race and they're projecting that upon us. However, am I going to say, well then, as a white person, I'm going to start a business and never hire black people because that's what people on the left? Of course not. So I get where you're coming from, Aftershock. We can't just be like, well, we'll just never do anything. We'll just say you have the right to do it. Of course not. And that's what I try to exhibit on my show. I go on the offense all the time. I tell these people like, nope, you're wrong. Here's why. I preach to the Republican Party when I talk to them going on the offense. But you can't lose yourself. You can't become the monster that you're fighting. And that's why I argue against the Christian nationalists, because I get it. As someone who identifies as a Christian, though, the Christian nationalists don't think I'm a Christian, but that's another story. But I think that's why I argue with them. I'm like, you're going too far. I don't want, you want to know what I want my kid learning in school? Math, reading, art. Like, that's the stuff I want them. I don't want them to go from, well, you're being indoctrinated with this crazy gender bullshit to now you're being indoctrinated with, the Eastern Orthodox religion. Or whatever religion wins out in the Christian national. I'm sorry. I will have conversations with my child about religion at home. That school that our tax dollars are paying for, unless you're going to a private school, that's different. I don't think it should be in the indoctrination business, period. I don't. And so, I know that there's always some level of indoctrination, but that's where I think it gets dicey. It gets dicey because you have to say, how can you effectively go on the offense and say, no, we're done with this compromising, but at the same time not become the monster that's like, we want everyone buried. And you know this, Aftershock. There are people that I have interacted with on the left that would be happy to see me in prison the rest of my life. Would absolutely be happy. I can't reciprocate. If they do something like, if they're literally like harming a child, which I have to be careful what I say, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, but harming a child in exploitive ways, then sure, prison the rest of your life. But if you're just on talking about your crazy bullshit, no, I don't want to see you go to jail. Hell, I don't even want to see you banned. I really don't. I want to see your crazy bullshit out there so I can make fun of it and normal people could wake up to how crazy you are. But, it is a fine line. It's one of the most difficult questions we could ask,
So... I agree with you guys. I guess I'm just a little pissed, but like, I guess what I'm saying is, I guess what I'm saying is that because I can't see myself doing that kind of stuff. Like calling somebody, trying to get somebody fired. Like I can't see myself doing that at all. Right? It just thinking about it. You know what I mean? It's not right. But there has to be some kind of cultural backlash to thinking these kinds of things, to being a socialist, to being a communist. There's social backlashes for being a conservative. There's social backlashes for being a Republican, for being a Trump supporter, horrible backlashes. And some of that does need to exist, because without it, then the left will continue to have a stranglehold on the culture, because ultimately they're going to have moral superiority. And that is like that is the base. That is what we need. And we saw that in the midterms, that the base of the support that they have, it crumbled. It was crumbling. I honestly think it was a red wave. I really do. I really do. And I think the way we capitalize on it is keep on pushing, but we also have to, and I understand, like, it's kind of interesting because we're kind of coming at it in three different ways. I feel like Rob is more of the argumentative debate, intellectual. Ginge handling like the art sort of way, and I'm kind of like a sneako, you know what I mean? Where I'm just kind of over here like saying, these guys are fucking lame, dude. These guys are fucking losers. You know what I mean? Like, don't fucking hang out with them. They're a bunch of pussies and shit. And I think all of those kinds of three different things are extremely, extremely important. And I also think that they're equally important.
I don't disagree. Like, that's what's great about my worldview, and I think you two would share a lot of this, like a worldview of individuality. Like, at its core, what was capitalism?
Back, I can listen though.
Okay, capitalism was basically just specialization of labor, right? Like it was the realization before we had societies, everybody had to do everything for themselves, right? Like so you had to be a good hunter, you had to be, a good medic, you had to have good social skills, right? And then we realized like, well, what if the best hunters just hunted and the best gardeners just garden, right? Like all of us have skill, and it's one of the most important lessons I've ever learned in life. Like Ginge, I always thought it was funny. People would be like, I was pretty good for some redneck drunk, and I was an absolute blackout drunk guy, like 3 days a week. I was an alcoholic, right? And a redneck. And like, I had all these friends that were like, we'd go down to the local rod and gun club and drink and, and they were like, holy fuck, like, tell us what you did this week. It's like, well, I debated Harvard's top team at this tournament and we took second place at this national tournament. And people are like, how the fuck do you do that? Like, you were at the Naval Academy, you spoke in what? In front of 3,000 people? It's like, yeah, I don't know. I was always amazed by the shit I couldn't do, though. So a debater that was better than me, I'd be like, yeah, it's impressive. They are better than me. But I wasn't, like, awestruck. But my roommate was an artist. Like, my roommate did sculptures. And I would just sit there and watch him for hours like, how the fuck can you do that? I can't even, my mind doesn't work in a way where I could even, like, it's not just that I don't have the talent. I don't have the visualization, like, to see what he sees. And to me, and he would be like, I'm just a run-of-the-mill art student at a shitty school. Why are you so impressed? But that's, that understanding that we all have different talents. So I do get what Aftershock's saying. I have people all the time tell me like, well, how do I start a channel and talk like you? I'm like, you can't, because you're not me. You're good. You bring your own things to the table. Every one of us do. And if you're trying to get into something you're not good at or not comfortable at just because you feel you have to, you're making a mistake. But you can still push anti-woke ideology. You could be a carpenter. And you could still, because it's not so much about what you say, it's about what you do. And to me, that's the most important thing, where it's like, if I am a comic book creator and I only have the example of Marvel and DC, and then I see someone like you, I'm like, what? Holy shit. There's a different way to do it. And you didn't have to say a word. You didn't have to go to them and say, here's why you should, right? It's that inspiration to me. And so I do think that you need people coming at this from all different areas, through debating, through academic system, through just people saying fuck you, through arts. I agree with that. I do.
So, one thing that you actually wouldn't guess about Ginge is that he is actually, despite him being like very nice and everything like that, he's actually very fucking doomer pilled. Every single time that we text each other, I tell him, dude, did you hear about this and stuff? By the end of that conversation, I am so fucking depressed. Ginge, could you like elaborate on why do you feel that way? You know what I mean? Like, why do you think like it's kind of, and maybe doomer pilled is a strong word. Maybe we kind of just only talk about it in that kind of angle. But like, you know what I mean? Like, can you touch on that a little bit? Like, how do you feel about like, do you have faith in the future?
It's a slight doomer pill from time to time, but I think it's tampered also with comic books, and in a large way helps give me a focus towards something. And with it being a, especially with the culture war being what it is, that there's a part of me that sees hope in that, because that's where I'm headed with my life. So with that, it's sort of easier to see elements of hope in things. But as far as like the doomer pill largely goes, I think it's in some ways because I come from this far left type belief system, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but a lot of these, and we've been talking about it still, it's like a lot of these people are seriously disingenuous, and the higher up you get, the more level of evil I find. It's so powerful to me at this point that, and I was a big Trump guy for the most part. These days, I'm a Florida. I live in Florida. I lived there throughout. So as far as like me dealing with the pandemic, like I think I only wore my mask for like 3 to 4 months, like realistically. And then that was at the start, dude. And then from then on, I was like, we'd be walking around Walmart, and I would just see a few other guys that were also not wearing masks. I was one of the very, not that it's like a, like weird flex, bro, or anything, but it's like, I just remember like the air being thick and weird, but over time, and quicker than I think maybe in some other states, like people definitely just put that shit down. But as far as like the doomer element goes, I think I think the corruption and the issues isn't just in America. It's largely to do with human nature and how deeply I don't think we even really understand how deeply embedded all of this is. We're getting to peel back the layers and things with the Twitter files and with the Hunter Biden laptop and all of this, but you can look at all the different, Republican or Democratic presidents over the last couple decades, and they've all kind of been on the same program. We are up against one massive machine that I feel like in large part, it's not to say that we shouldn't try, because I think we can make, just like there was a brief, I'd almost call it, like a golden era slightly during those, first couple years of Trump where things were, running pretty smoothly, I'd say, for here in Florida, like making money, great, things were nice, like it was pretty good. And things now are more expensive than ever and all that, that old chestnut. But so I think we can fight towards incremental changes and increase. But and this is where the doomer part comes into me, and it's sort of maybe just human nature. I think in large part, and also maybe because of how the American system only runs for like 4 years or 8 years if you win a second term, it's like, and maybe that's good. I'm not saying change that necessarily, right? Because we want that. We don't want to have a king or emperor at all. But no, man, I just find human nature and the nature of politics and how to achieve the highest levels of power. Like, not everybody's evil, and Trump was an anomaly, and I don't find him evil. And I think he mistook the beast he was up against, and I think he thought there was going to be some honor played in the game. At least that's what I thought as well. I thought that. I thought there was going to be some degree of honor because this is for all the marbles, right? And I think he underestimated that sorely, on top of staffing himself mostly poorly and sort of getting lost in his own sauce. And, I don't know. I think largely it's a crapshoot because let's say even if we got somebody into, even if DeSantis ran and won and was successful, I'm already slightly worried about, well, even right now in this thing that hasn't even happened yet, and maybe this is just me, I'm already worried about what happens when he gets out, because I don't believe these people are going away. I don't believe that we're actually going to defeat this ideology. I don't see it like that. These are humans. They're going to believe what they want to believe, and they're going to believe other shit. Maybe this belief system will, in its extremity, go down, and its level of extremeness sort of decrease, but it's too sexy. You know what I mean? It riles up people too much. It's so easy to control people with this one. I don't know. There's so much evil out there, and there's so many people that want power. We're fighting uphill, really.
I was gonna say that I was going to say after you were done is that like all of this is what we can see. Like imagine what dirty laundry is at YouTube, and at Google, and at Instagram, right? This is and another angle of it too, which you kind of mentioned that I also wanted to get to is DeSantis and Trump, right? This idea of being so doomer pilled because even the people on your side are kind of against you. You know what I mean? Like, take a look at Trump. I can't wait to fucking get my NFT, guys. I can't fucking wait. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was going to be like maybe like he was going to, announce his VP run. You know what I mean? Or some people were talking about him being the House of, the Speaker of the House or something like that. And it just seems like Trump has made such horribly and easily avoidable mistakes. He could have capitalized on so many things that he just didn't. Like one of the things that just like was the last fucking straw for me, and I'm still kind of, you know what I mean? Maybe there is one more straw, but one of the things that just like fucking pissed me off was his really dumb and out of nowhere attack on Ron DeSantis. Like you really turn around and attack the most powerful governor, the most liked governor right now, instead of teaming up with the man. I just don't understand why he would do something like that.
I agree with you, but I will steelman his position here a little. If you talk to the Trump people, what they'll say is DeSantis surrogates were attacking him.
Whose position?
Trump's, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. So Trump's, the people that defend Trump, that like Raheem Kassim or whatever from Breitbart, this is what he says. He says, listen, you had all these surrogates for DeSantis that were out there attacking Trump, right? And Trump doesn't have a filter, right? So DeSantis is smart enough to play the game that he's probably like, yeah, I don't like Trump, and I know I'm going to have to go to war with him, but I'll play nice on TV. But in reality, we're having strategy sessions like, how can we bring down Trump? And Trump, instead of saying, well, I'll play nice and I'll have a strategy, he's just like, yeah, fuck DeSantis. right? That's just the way he works, which is what people liked about him in 2016, and now they're pissed off. When it comes to that sort of, I agree it was stupid, especially right after the election when DeSantis had pretty much the only bright spot of Republicans
The
in the
elections
midterms.
weren't even over yet.
Yeah, it was stupid. But, for me, look, there's a lot to complain about Trump, I probably at this point clearly favor DeSantis, though, I'm doomer-pilled as well in this sense. I feel that if DeSantis wins the nomination, it will be because he has the backing of the establishment GOP, which means that he'll basically do their bidding, which means even if he wins the presidency, we're just going to get a watered-down DeSantis, not the DeSantis in Florida that told the CDC to eat shit. But I don't know. But here's what I'll say about the doomer pill stuff. I'm not one for religion or philosophy. I don't speak eloquently on that. But when you're looking at life, I think you have to sort of have a framework for the things that are most important for you. And I sort of mentioned it earlier, your friends, your family, your loved one, your religion. Let's say you're an atheist, which I was at one point, I saw optimism in the insignificance of my life. I saw myself as a grain of sand, and that's depressing as shit. Or is it? Because to me, it's like, well, I can only fuck up so bad, right? If I'm just one grain of sand, I can't do anything too bad. Cosmically, in 10,000 years, no one's going to remember anything. So what's the difference? Why not try to not be depressed? Why not, So for me, when I look at it through that framework, as long as I know that I'm fighting for what I think is in my mind, I'm doing my best to see what's right, and I'm trying to strive for that. And I know that I'm being a legitimate, and I'm my harshest critic, not just strategically, but morally. I could lie to you, but I can't lie to me. I can't. And I wrestle with that. I do little things where I stay up at night like, shit, I shouldn't have said that. I feel like, or I could have done this better, or, my aunt died and I should have hung out with her more. What a sack of shit I am. So that to me, those are the most important things. So given that, I can't be doomer pilled. I can't. Going further than that, though, I think there are reasons to be optimistic culturally. I don't think election-wise we're going to see any significant differences politically. Even if people we think we like get into office, the corruption's so deep, they'll just be stymied. There'll be never-ending investigations. Or I hesitate to even say it. I won't. I just hope that you guys can intuit, perhaps a JFK type situation if someone gets in and starts doing things and upsetting the apple cart too much. I don't anticipate any president or any amount of elected leaders are going to have a significant political change. I really don't, which is odd because I spend so much time fighting for it. But, there's this guy I watch, his name's Steve Ranella. He has a show called Meat Eater. And he's great. One of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard, I don't know if he came up with this, but he shoots a deer and he wounds it, and he's upset with himself because that's like, as a serious ethical hunter, you never want to shoot and wound something. So he feels bad, and it's on camera, and he's like, I'm tracking the deer, and he's like, in my head I'm pessimistic, but with my feet I'm optimistic, right? So what he's saying is he's telling himself this shit, it's not going to work out, but his actions are acting as if it will. Right? So your feet, what he's saying is, I'm walking. I have to keep moving towards my goal. I have to assume with my actions that there will be a good outcome. But in his head, he's like, it's probably not going to be a good outcome. But that's sort of how you have to live your life. You can't get depressed. You can't just be like, well, and people, I don't know. There's something about me that maybe is different. I kind of love being the underdog. I probably felt better after the 2020 election personally for clarity of what I needed to do than I did after 2016. Because even into the night of 2016 when Trump was winning, I had people calling me. I was like, no way they let him win. No way. They're going to pull the rug out. So it's not going to happen. And then when it became obvious, holy shit, it's too late. It was a weird feeling because you're like, all my life that I've been interested in politics, my person has never won. And now they did. And now it's like, oh shit, this is uncharted terror. What do I do? As in my little personal life. When I get kicked, I'm like, okay, now my back's against the wall. Now I know what I got to do. And so for me, it's just So many people are like, and I deal with these people. I'm on message boards and stuff, on private text chains with people that are like, nothing fucking matters. Most of them are religious, so they'll justify it like, Jesus will come back and fuck all this. And it's like, I don't think that's the right attitude to have. Like, religious or not, if you're Christian, is that really the point? Is the point to say give up and leave God take care? I don't think so. I think if you believe that this is a test, then keep fighting. Keep trying to ace the test, right? So, I think there are legitimate reasons culturally to see the pendulum swinging the other way. Comic Gate would be one, right? You see people waking up, Elon buying Twitter, more and more people getting fed up with the authoritarianism. But it's going to take decades for that to swing back. You have to understand, Republicans, and it's not just Republicans, but just for sake of ease, Republicans spent 30 years saying we need to win elections, and the left spent 30 years saying let's take over the schools, let's take over Hollywood, let's take over the entertainment industry, let's take over the media industry. And so they could lose elections. That was irrelevant. They were playing the long game. And so it's not going to be okay, it's all over now. Now everything's good. We fixed it. It's going to take decades. It really will. But I see reason to be optimistic, and more importantly, I see reason to be black-pilled or doomer-pilled or whatever you want to call it. I understand it, and I probably agree with 95% of what those people think, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's still, to me, I'm one of the happiest people you'll meet. I got a great family. I love doing this. This is my entertainment. I like my job. I'm trying to do what I think's right. Has it cost me business? Yeah. Like, it's cost me probably job opportunities. Certainly, I wanted to be a professor. I can't get calls back. I know they check my social media. I know what's happening. So my degree that I spent 8 years getting in speech communication, I can't use it. So instead I'm doing a job that you need a GED for. Oh, well, life goes on, find the things that are positive. But yeah, that doesn't mean that you ignore the reality that it's like, we're probably not going to win the 2024 election. And if we do, nothing will probably change. That's the truth. And I know people don't want to hear that, but I'm not saying that from a black-pilled stance. I'm saying, but there's still reason to be and there's always room that I'll be wrong. There's always room that I'll pleasantly be wrong. But
well, one of the things that that I agree. I think as of right now, and I think I have Ginge to blame for this. I was mainly 90-10 optimistic, and
I'm
now
listening.
I would say, yeah, no problem. And now I would say I'm maybe 60-40 optimistic, I would say. But like, one of the reasons why I've pulled down so much is because I look around at my side and I look at people like, and even if I agree with them, for the most, I wouldn't say for the most part, maybe like 30%, I look around and I look at people like Milo or Nick Fuentes, you know what I mean? And just like the kind of things that they kind of want to do, and it's just like there's so few people that I like on my side that I think, like, even if we win, who's the team that we have? You know what I mean? Like, I look again like Milo, like Nick, I look at Trump and how he's fucked up, and that's what brings me back down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ginge.
Yeah. As far as like, I don't know, as far as like the sort of mainstream, because I don't know, I try not to, or at least at this point in my life, I'm trying not to hold, especially after doing YouTube for a while myself, and just, you hear people that do YouTube or podcasts talk about, after spending enough time talking for hours, you just sort of sometimes say stupid shit. So, it just is what it is. Right. So I try, it just depends, you know what I mean? It's like, if it's like Vosh or somebody, like, I don't watch their content, but I'll catch, like, Rob, I've watched your show, I think for about a year and a half or so at this point. Yeah. And I've caught your debates with, both of those guys. Ooh. And just the panels and stuff that you do. And for me, that's where, like, there was maybe a time I was interested in that, but I think you kind of sort of hit the nail on the head a little bit as far as the doomer part goes. You have to kind of do what you love to do. And for me, and I think a lot of people, we don't really love politics that much, you know what I mean? And I'm not to say that you are in love with it per se, but you know what I mean? Like, you're doing, your thing over here. But yeah, I think doing what you love to do, and especially if it's like regardless of what the gatekeepers want you to do. That is actually incredibly important, not just for you, but also over time, like, you know, because that's kind of how I stumbled into even being able to make comics, you know, or allowing myself to, in a way, was coming across the YouTube scene and being introduced to crowdfunding and the way indie comics work, where you don't have to send in, you know, for better or worse at times, because, you know, you have to, if you're a beginning writer, you know, sometimes you're writing, like sometimes people's books are great, and then other times, you know, you can tell that they need a little bit more, you know, salt around the ears, let's say. And there's maybe that barrier to entry can be useful if that editor, you know, that you send a submission off to says, you know, it's good, but you're not ready yet or whatever. It might be useful to you just to get the feedback and maybe not have you put something out that stinks. But, you know, at the same time, I'm much more in favor of being able to get out and do what you want to do and not have people tell you what you can't do about it, and learning on the fly. If you really love it, you're either gonna make it or not. And it's like not even a sense of like making it big. You're just gonna continue to keep making them. You know what I mean? Regardless if you strike it rich, it's like anything that you do, if it's like a passion project or if it's something you're trying to turn into a business, it's either gonna, you know, you're either gonna do it until you can't anymore, and that's gonna be for like you just didn't love it, or you can't afford it anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
So
and even
go
ahead,
ahead.
please.
You're good. Okay. So I see. I agree with you. Like, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. The thing is, I feel like, and I don't think that this is healthy, but I feel like for me, I've made politics so much of my personality, and I think it's justified. I think it's really justified. I look around and I look at these people like Vosh, like you were talking about, like Vosh and stuff. These people are fucking evil, and maybe it's just the pride in me where I just want to do everything in my fucking power to take these people down. Like, you see these people, and you know, like I kind of want to hand it to Vosh. You know what I mean? Because I feel like he's laid in the bed that the left has made for him. You know, for a long time, these people have been saying that we're evil, that we're Nazis, we're transphobic, we're this, we're that, and this. What only logically follows that, like, well, what would you do if you're up against those people and then they win, right? Well, Vosh has been the only one, as far as I can see, to tell the left, okay, now it's time to nut up or shut up, motherfuckers. Now it's time. Okay, I want lefties to get guns and fucking shoot at people when they drive by with American flags. The what were they called, Rob? The
Patriot Prayer.
The Patriot Prayer groups. Yeah, I want people to do this. Vosh is going on the offensive, and I honestly, I kind of respect him for it, but I fucking hate him so much. And again, like, you know, maybe you guys can chime in on this. You know what I mean? Maybe I just need to fucking take up hobbies or something like that. But I think it's worth it to make it part of my life, to make it a huge part of my life, to try to take these people down, even if it takes over my life.
Okay, that's unhealthy, I think. I don't think that you should leave it take over your life. I don't think you should lose sleep over Vosh. If Vosh had ultimate power, would he do incredibly heinous things? Probably. But I don't lose sleep over him, because you want to know something about Vosh? Let me tell you a little secret about all these people. You ready? They're going to get lined up against the wall, too. And that's just the truth.
Does it matter if we're already dead?
You tell me.
No, it doesn't.
Well, let me explain. If you said that to the detriment of your own life, you're looking to get vengeance on him, I just want to let you know he doesn't win. He doesn't, right? So it's not worth throwing your life away. It's not. You know, you could, in a way that's symbiotic with your self-happiness and your personal life, sure, you could push against these things, but it is never worth doing it. At the end of the day, each and every person listening should understand that your personal fulfillment, right, in an ethical way, I'm not saying go rob someone so you could drive a Mercedes, but doing what you love and having relationships and family, it is not worth sacrificing those things, because your life isn't a comic book. You're not going to be the hero that because you took some courageous last stand that the whole ship is righted. That's not the way shit works. Like, it's not. The most good you could do in your life, 99.99999% of us, the most good we'll ever do in our life is the direct interactions we have with people around us, right? I could do more good being a good father than I could do if I streamed 20 hours a day as the most articulate person in the world. Me being a good father in the grand scheme of things would still be more important than that. And so I reject this idea. I don't give a shit. I don't think about Vosh other than he's an example of someone who runs from me in debates, who speaks vitriolically and hyperbolically, because he knows that's how his bread is buttered. But if it makes you feel good, just know those people, and you could read Yuri Brezhnev, you could look at a history of the Soviet Union, you could look at the Red Guard in China. Those sort of people, this vanguard, the academics, or the brown shirts that are out there, the system turns on them as well. It will. That's the irony. The irony is, if my ideology wins out, it will be better for Vosh and his fans at the end of the day than if his system wins out. Because if you install authoritarian radical leftists, eventually you won't be left enough for them. So I don't lose sleep. As far as your other point about right-wingers, right? Milo and Nick Fuentes, and you see that people on, quote, our side are they even worth defending? No. Fuck Nick Fuentes,
let me
fuck Milo.
Real quick. But let me ask something real quick. They're not only some people that we shouldn't promote or agree with or push their ideas on, but they're actually actively trying to destroy the party. I think Crowder hit it right on the head when he said that Nick Fuentes and Milo are the kind of people that want to tear stuff down without having the idea of what should we build after. So these guys aren't just somebody that is bad. They're literally trying to destroy us.
Well, listen. First off, to me, that was sort of the appeal of Trump. I want to disband the FBI. Someone might say, well, what system would you replace it with? Don't know. We'll cross separate. I think right now I would give the authorities of the FBI to state police agencies and things like that. But I will admit, I'm not that sort of micro-minded person that's like, this is the exact transition. I just understand the corruption of the FBI and it needs to be immediately disbanded. But further to your point, yeah, you're probably right about Nick and Milo. Fuck them. I don't like them. I thought Milo was interesting in 2014, 2015. I think that he's fallen off. And I gotta be clear, I think Trump's fallen off a lot as well. My feeling on this is it shows the importance of your own life. If you are expecting any human being to be your savior, you're wrong. Right? If you're listening to me right now and you're like, I guarantee that Rob will always agree with me, and every time he has a debate, he'll crush his opponent, I will let you down. I guarantee it, probably sooner than you would think, right? So when I look at this, right, and I'm like, well, look at the people that are fighting against sort of corruption. I wouldn't even say on the right. And some of them I find loathsome, Nick Fuentes or the Groypers or whatever, certain Christian nationals. Not some of them. I like BPF and those guys. I really do. But you know what I mean? They're the insane, white nationalists or uber Christian nationalists. Those people, it's so it's easy to get depressed because you're like, well, these are the people on my side. And it's like, no, I don't think of it that way. I'm my own side. I just happen to share beliefs with a bunch of people. And when those people no longer share those beliefs with me, I supported Trump, not because I think Donald Trump's a cool guy. I supported Trump because his ideology and what he represented matched up with what I thought was necessary. If he comes out tomorrow and says, by the way, I'm against free speech and I'm against the Second Amendment, I'll say, fuck you. I don't like that, right? So I don't feel like, oh, this guy's, now I'm hung with this baggage of him. I say, no, it was never about the individuals. And the other thing is this, start your own channel, start your own commentary, do what you want to advocate because, for me, that's why I started talking. I didn't think anyone talked in the way that I do. And so I thought there was space for me to talk. And the people that I respect the most and that I'm the most happy with are regular folks like you and my friends and family. Those are the people I look at and I'm like, that's my side. Those are the people on my side. It's not Ben Shapiro. It's not Mitch McConnell. It's not Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson. I might agree or disagree with those people. But at the end of the day, the people that I really feel like that are worth fighting for, it's my friends and family. It's the people I see that are, that owned a family farm their whole life and they basically were told they're non-essential and now they're losing their fucking farm. Those are the people I'm like, that person's worth fighting for. Fuck Nick Fuentes, Milo. Yeah, they're baggage, so you argue against them. You're like, you suck. But yeah, I don't. To me, that's never a problem, right? If you ever feel that way, go to Jesse Kelly's radio show, and I think he still has these clips up. And go listen to the shows he's done that are just 2 hours of people calling in, telling about how COVID lockdowns ruined their life. I can't get through 10 minutes without bawling my eyes out. It is some of the hardest things you'll ever listen to. But if you ever feel like, well, who's on my side worth fighting for? Listen to that. And that'll change your tune real quick, because those people are worth fighting for. So,
yeah. As far as like your original question, Aftershock, yeah, man, I think letting it consume you. I mean, you guys have kind of nailed it, but that's what I think. Let's just take a look at what happens when people do let this insanity consume them. I'm not saying you're going to turn into a school shooter or any kind of shooter or anything wrong, but when you let this, what is basically trying to make people crazy, it's bending reality, it's lying to people and shaping the world in a way that is largely not true, and also almost like completely evil, just everywhere you look. And while there is lots of evil out there and there is lots of untruth, if you don't have a counterbalance, a hobby, or depending, something to work towards, for me it's comics, for whatever, yeah, you're gonna go crazy actually. And that's and also I sort of separated, because I was in a similar boat for a while. I was really like 2017, 18, like especially around the Kavanaugh trial. Like I was loving the memes on Facebook, like really really hammering it down. And it did take me some time of like just sitting back and looking at my own messages on Facebook, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I was like you're just sort of arguing to argue, and like, who is this person? And it really took, I deleted my Facebook actually.
You did,
and it took I had to just basically pull myself away. It was like Venom, right? Do comic book reference, like Spider-Man ripping this fucking symbiote off me, just because it was consuming me. And while I still have a more than a passing interest in politics, I watch something about it every day, even though I tell myself I'm not gonna. I feel that it's not paying attention to it isn't an answer either. It's like, regardless of what we can do or not, that's a different question, but at least being aware of what may or may not be true, so that you can't be, told unless you're just the type of person that truly doesn't give a shit and has their own thing going on. And it's, just because there are people that don't know anything about politics, and that's, maybe they just don't watch TV at all. And that's probably a life a lot more people maybe should consider living. I think we might be largely too overactivated, but it's not to say that we shouldn't be active, because the government will, regardless of what branch or side, that power is going to try to creep. So we have to maintain watch to some degree.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's like, I know people. None of you know me in real life, right? If other than my wife, who will take any position, she's in the chat right now, claiming that I'm streaming with you guys to get out of house cleaning, which is 50% true. But if you talk to like any of my friends and family, I am legitimately one of the happiest, easygoing people you'd ever meet. I love life. I love my family. I love my friends. I love where I live. I am one of the, I legitimately believe I'm one of the luckiest people that have ever lived. Like, my life is awesome. Not because I'm wealthy. I'm not because, I'm strikingly handsome, which is true, but just, I don't know. I know it's easier said than done, and I'm not belittling anyone, but I am able to separate this. I am able to talk about like how pissed off I get about this political and cultural stuff, and then I click off and I go downstairs, and like, I'm not talking to my wife about politics. I might be like, oh, Aftershock said hi, or he did this or he did that, or talking about the stream, but I'm not talking about the shit that pisses me off culturally and politically. And then that's it. That's basically how I live my life. I separate them. And so I get people all the time. It's like, oh, Rob, he sounds super pissed off. Yeah, a lot of times I am on here, but to me, it's cathartic. It's like going to the gym and hitting a heavy bag, which I should do. Maybe I should do that instead. Yeah. But, you get all that energy out, and it's like, okay. And I still think I'm doing the right thing. And I still do things outside of streaming to help, You know, I meet with the Republicans. I talk to them on the phone. I help campaigns. You know, I do that stuff. I do phone banks. But, you know, I just have a way of separating it. I feel like it's not going to do anyone any good to just sit around morose and like, oh my God, if these people keep getting power, you know, they're going to do this, this, and this. You know, I do what I can within the confines of, you know, could I do more? Of course. But, you know, I think that I do enough that I'm happy with it. And that's all I care about at the end of the day, I guess, you know?
I honestly, Ginge, you guys said that pretty well. And like, the thing about it is that like, and I know you only have like 15 minutes, Rob, so I will try to be quick and stuff. But the thing that like kind of really gets to me is that like, I do look at myself. I completely relate with that, Ginge, where I do look at myself online and I am just if I were to, let's say, be like my son and I look back at, you know, my father's messages and how he acted on Facebook, I would be disgusted. You know, I'd be like, this guy's such a fucking asshole. Like, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean? But like the thing that really pisses me off is I do try to leave it outside of all of this. You know what I mean? When I click out of my computer, you know, I really do try, but it's so hard to do that when the culture isn't ours, right? I tell this to my girlfriend all the time. I have a new job, right? I'm working remote and we're in training right now. There's like maybe I want to say like 12 people training in like a group, right? Once so often, once in a while, politics comes out. Somebody has to mention politics, and would you guys care to admit what leaning comes out? It's obviously the fucking lefties, right? Because these people feel comfortable saying these kinds of things. I don't feel comfortable saying that I'm conservative. I don't feel comfortable. And those are the kinds of things that really piss me off. But at the same time, it's like, and I talked to this guy on Discord, really cool guy. I explained to him everything that happened, and he was telling me like, you're really like animated and stuff. And I talked about my girlfriend and how like she didn't vote and stuff like that. And he was saying, you know what? I guarantee that the reason she didn't vote is because of you. I guarantee you ruined that shit for her, man. I guarantee you're always blasting her ear with a bunch of stupid ass shit that like, it may be true. You may have an argument and stuff, but at the end of the day, like maybe she just doesn't want to hear that. You know what I mean? But I'm the kind of person that I think, and maybe this is stupid of me, but I think that if I don't preach, if I wear a lot of patriotic stuff, I really, really do think it makes a difference. I think standing up and showing people that they are not alone is so fucking important, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's down at the Walmart, whether anywhere. If somebody sees that they are not alone, I feel like that is a huge domino effect that is just going to end up, you know, probably making a difference.
Okay, but let me use the example you gave back at you, right? Like, I don't disagree with that. But what if you look like Milo to them? What if they just see you with your Make America Great Again hat and you're just fucking seething? And you're sitting there like, motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, wow, what a fucking wacko. I want to be on the side with that guy. You know, well, I know you're not, but you see what I'm saying? Like, you're right. Yeah. That's certainly true. I hate to do this, but like, I was an atheist who now considers myself Christian in the most rudimentary sense. You were an atheist?
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
I said some really horrible things. Yeah, from the time about 16 to probably 22, 23. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we all kind of fell into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, probably everybody's been through, like, an atheist phase.
I went to a Pentecostal church. They spoke in tongues. They were crazy. It kind of turned me off of it. But anyways, you know what got me back? It wasn't like someone through the power of logic had a debate with me. It was like, let me explain like sort of creationism or Christian. Like, it wasn't that. It was people that I knew were Christians that I was friends or associates with. And it was never anything they said to me. It was how they lived their life. That's what the inspiration was for me. It wasn't them saying, here's why you need to be a Christian. It was them knowing that I hated their religion, still being friends with me, and still living a life that was within their code of their religion, but also seeming genuinely happy doing so. And that's what got me to say, like, there's got to be something to this, right? Like, now I'm not saying I jumped in with both feet and was like, oh, now I'm at church. That's not what I do. It didn't persuade me overnight, but what it got me thinking was like, these people aren't dumb people. These people aren't miserable, wearing suits and ties every day. Like, if they had been like that, if they were, maybe this is an easier example. Everyone could relate to this. Do you ever have a vegetarian friend that can't shut the fuck up about it? You know, and it just makes you go, man, I want to eat 5 steaks right now, just bloody rare, right in front of you, just to shut your ass up, you know? Or for me, an even better example is weed. I believe that we probably should have legalization of marijuana. But anytime my one friend starts going, everything, oh, we need weed for this, we need weed for that, I'm just like, you know what? I hope they make it illegal forever just to fuck with you because you're so annoying. You know, it's like, you know, so to me, there's a fine line. Like, it doesn't help if you're miserable to be out there being like, well, I need to model that it's okay to be like this. The model needs to be that you're living a happy life. That doesn't mean that you're selfish, that you're like, you know, Gordon Gekko, just like, fuck it, I'll kick a bunch of old people out of their home and buy their, you know, I'm not saying that, but you got to find that fine line. It does no good for yourself or anyone, you know, and all you do is, you know, again, you probably are doing some good, but you could be doing much better if you were doing a little good in the way that you're doing, but a lot good in the way you're living your life and your personal happiness and your girlfriend's happiness. So, you know, I'm not going to change your mind on it. I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying, like, you got to keep that in mind. It's not just about, like, total sacrifice all the time. I have to stay totally pissed off because the world's heading in a direction. You can't be like that. You'll burn out, man. And I don't want to see that.
True. That's good. That's really good. So yeah,
I wanted to ask Ginge a question.
Yeah, I was
real quick. So, have you heard of? I don't know the guy who made this comic, but there's this guy who sort of went viral for crowdfunding his comic universe. It was called the Ripaverse. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, Eric July, the Rip Isom comic, the Ripaverse. Yeah, he made. I'm not sure what it's ended up being at for the first issue, but I watched the launch of that, and I watched him make $3 million in roughly 24 hours, which I'm not sure that Eric specifically claims CG. I mean, it sounds kind of, again, like I said, cliquish, but I mean, it's just colloquialisms here.
Right.
But because he's sort of, you know, but he is a very politically active type creator and had been also a music producer for, you know, I think some like hip rap song in the 2000s or something. He's been around. He's been on the Blaze TV. But yeah, he's his whole longtime comic fan who, you know, wanted to get into crowdfunding and was partially motivated by the, you know, just the outright gender and the politicization of, you know, Marvel and DC. You know, it's a lot like what inspired pretty much anybody in my neck of the woods that are getting in, you know, like, I don't know if you're familiar with, this was sort of a news story around 2018 or 19. This writer named Daniel Kibelschmidt was going to do a series called The New Warriors. And it's that one where it had the internet gas and like just these god awful, like super SJW style, like this team where it was just the silliest setups and the most, you know, just asking for it, you know, cuckery, if you will, straight cuckery. And that guy, that series never came to light because it was just so bad from the start that they literally never went through it. That they announced it and was like, okay, we're just gonna not announce anything else about it. But that guy, he would later go on to get announced to be the writer of a Blade series, a year or so later, that I was super pumped for because we heard a new Blade was coming out. And Blade, especially for what Marvel's got right now, he's supposed to be a high T, you know, kick ass, you know, chopping vampires up, riding motorcycles, right? Lots of fun. So news comes down that Daniel Kibelschmidt is going to be the writer for this new Blade series. And this is, I actually got mad. You know, my face got red and I said, because I was actually looking forward to buying that series. I was like, yes, thank you, Marvel. Give me some Blade. Because I don't buy mainstream comics anymore. I haven't in a long time at this point, like 2 years roughly. Mm-hmm. Like if there's, even there's some series out right now that got my attention that I'm just not going to do it. I'd rather spend my money on, you know, indie guys. And, but no, when I heard about that Blade series, I pretty much stopped what I was doing and wrote my own, you know, just vampire story. It's a vampire island. It's basically aliens meets vampires. So this ship in the 1800s crash lands on an island, you know, trapped vampires. So, but I did that just like out of, you know, inspiration. Like I was genuinely mad to hear that, and because dude, like I don't know if Rob, if you were looking those up or like the New Warriors, Daniel Kibelschmidt. It's goofy looking. I mean, this is the guy that also wrote Santa's Boyfriend, right? With like, he's just writing all kinds of garbage, dude. And they gave him Blade. So it's not, that wasn't an accident either. You know what I mean? They are purposefully demasculating characters, toxic masculine, anything that, you know, is like, that you might see in the other elements of, you know, this weirdo culture war that we're in. You know, it's all there in comics, and it's all prevalent with, you know, the way Marvel and DC are approaching everything, not just in comics, but in movies and television too.
Right. Well, I wish you well. It's definitely something I want to follow. Aftershock, unfortunately, my wife's watching, and I'm going to have to wrap up here. But Aftershock, I know you could talk here briefly at the end about where they could find you. Basically, you're producing for me quite often. But I did want to give Ginge a chance to shout out where people could find him or find some of the stuff he's working on.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah,
like I said, I've watched
anytime.
the show for a good minute now, so a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, guys, and also Twitter. My YouTube channel, I think the handle should just be at Ginge Gingerton, but I do a Tuesday promotion show called the Ginge and Pedro Show. For me and my co-host Pedro, we interview a creator, have some fun, talk some trash. You know, it's a quick hour. I'm on Twitter at Mark Mulgrave, Mark with 2 R's. That's pretty much my main sort of link out there, but I got some stuff coming out in the future here. We got a book coming out January 15th called Tropical Magics on Kickstarter. So keep an eye out for that. Lots of fun. Basically, Mad Max meets Cheech and Chong, 72 pages of, you know, just good fun. So yeah, that's what I got going on, guys.
Now, I really appreciate it. It is something that I talk about a lot, that we need to have people in other areas of culture pushing back in this. So I'm so happy I got to talk to you. Aftershock, as always, thank you for not only lining up the guests, but participating tonight. I always like talking to you. What do you got coming up? Anything specifically you want to throw out that you got coming up?
Nah. Support these motherfuckers, man. They're the ones doing the real work. I'm just over here talking shit.
So,
Thank
all
you,
right.
buddy.
Well, I appreciate both of you. And yeah, we'll make sure that we get the links. Aftershock put them in there. So we'll make sure that we get those links up. And I hope everyone checks you out. And hopefully we could talk again soon, talking about the improved success that you're having. But I'm definitely looking to check it out. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. It was a pleasure, bro. I had a lot of fun. Thank you, Marty, for bringing me on, brother.
Sure. Thank you, guys.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Peace.
Figure out how to leave here. Boomer time. Great guest. That is exactly the type of people I like talking about. I'm in talks with a good friend of mine to possibly, who's a big movie buff, to possibly be doing some movie critiques and reviews and just a fun show that might be coming up. So thank you so much, Aftershock. Now, it is 11, so I'm going to do my best to... Wife, I'm just finding a channel to raid. That's it. If you're listening, we'll find a channel to raid and I'll get out of here. Unfortunately, you won't see me tomorrow evening because I'm doing Christmassy stuff. And I got friends coming, so if I'm just finding a channel to raid, that's it. There you go, my video. Let's do... How about my buddy Pete the Patriot? You guys will like Pete the Patriot. He's a good guy. So tell him I said hi. I would stick around, but I value my marriage and my life, which would both be in jeopardy if I don't go help my wife clean here. So, but thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I hope, please, Aftershock put the links up there on YouTube. It's Ginge Gingerton, Gin. I'll put it up so you can see. Oh, did I miss the end? No, we're good. So check that out on YouTube. And there's all the links on Twitch as well. Please check it out. It is important. We all sit here and we bitch and we're like about how all of these entertainment industry, how shitty they all are. But at the end of the day, do we put our money where our mouth is? So I think that supporting someone who's actually out there putting that work in is one of the most important things we could do. So I hope you'll consider supporting. I know I will. So thank you all so much. Enjoy this raid of Pete the Patriot. As always, have a good one.
Disney as well, but the trailer is in the chat, Pete. And
See, it's
Pete,
possible.
Is Pete sleeping? No.
No, I'm not. I was just looking. At
AP could have easily volunteered Doug for this role because I mean he's a peaceful attack bear, so AP has got the control over Doug. So I mean, whenever he's like, "Okay, Doug, you have to get